Mental Health Day organized by SZABIST University. To start the conference, I would like to call upon stage Dr. Khalda Tanveer to start the conference.
Assalamu alaikum. 10th October, every year World Mental Health Day is celebrated. It was first initiated in 1992 by Federation of World Mental Health. The purpose was to raise awareness and educate masses about the importance of mental health. As you people know, mental health is a universal human right. So it is imperative on us to be sensitive of individuals who are around us. If we see any minor or significant change in the behavior of those, without hesitation, we have to approach them, embrace them, and do not leave them alone. We have to show acceptance toward those masses. And the second thing is to increase and train the number of professionals who can provide such services and make the world and community a better place to live in. I am thankful to SZABIST University for providing us this awareness, providing us this opportunity to raise awareness about this sensitive issue. Now I would like to, I would ask our esteemed Vice President Academics, Professor Dr. Altaf Mukati, to please come on stage and declare the conference open. Sir, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning to everyone. I am pleased to welcome you all to this conference organized by the Faculty of Education and Life Social Sciences. With this sentence, I would like to say I open the conference. World Mental Health Day is observed on 10th of October each year. In fact, we need to organize this every day because the trauma and the mental problems and the mental stress the whole nation is going through, we all know what is happening around us. So this is the need of the day, that we should organize such conferences to give the full awareness of how to cope up such mental issues. It is a day dedicating to raising awareness of mental health issues around the world and mobilizing efforts in support of mental health. The day is an opportunity to promote education, advocacy, and dialogue about mental health challenges with the goal of reducing stigma and improving mental health services and well-being globally. As we gather today, we acknowledge the rich cultural wisdom and experiences of indigenous communities whose perspectives on mental health offer valuable insights into the unique challenges faced by men and women. In the context of mental health and well-being, I understand an indigenous perspective means looking at these issues through the lens of indigenous knowledge, which is often holistic and community-centered. It highlights the interconnection of mind, body, spirit, and environment. It recognizes the impact of historical, cultural, and social factors such as colonization, loss of land, language, and cultural practices. Too often, mainstream psychology overlooks the deep-rooted connections between identity, culture, and well-being, particularly in indigenous populations. Today we will explore how gender play roles, societal expectations, and intergenerational trauma uniquely shape the mental health of both men and women. I look forward to an engaging and thoughtful dialogue that will be beneficial to all the participants in today's conference. I congratulate Dr. Riyaz Sheikh and his entire team to organize such an important event. And please, while the speakers come on the stage for their speeches, I would like that they should also express that how we cope up with the mental health stresses which is spreading around all of us. And believe you me that the type of problems I have never seen in my 67 years of life here in Pakistan. Everybody seems to be having some mental stresses in one way or the other. If you are a rich people, still you have the stresses. If you are poor, and normally the people who are somewhat better now have come to the lower middle class because of the financial problems and everything. And every next day, some parents come to me for some fee concession or something like that, who are very, affording their children's education here. So, and I found that whenever I talk to somebody outside, I feel that people are under very much stress. So please speak on these issues as well. I open the conference with my all full support, and I hope that in today's speeches, everybody will participate more enthusiastically. Thank you very much.
I'm honored to be here today as we come together to shed light on an issue that is often spoken about but in hushed voices. However, it deeply affects us all: mental health. Before we begin, I'd like to ask you all a question. How often do you truly stop and reflect on your mental health? Raise your hand if you actually stop and think and pay attention to your mental health. I don't see many raised hands. In a world that moves at a very fast pace, we often forget that our state of mind is just as important as our physical bodies. Today, on World Mental Health Day, we are here to make mental well-being a priority, not just for today, but for every day that follows. Let me ask you another quick question. How many of you have lately felt stressed, overwhelmed, or just in need of a mental break? Okay, if you didn't raise your hand, I applaud you, because for most of us, mental health is a topic that hits close to home. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to SZABIST University for giving us this incredible platform to just do that. By hosting the first national conference on World Mental Health Day, we are not just having conversation, we are fostering change. On World Mental Health Day, the theme today is an Indigenous perspective on the psychological issues faced by men and women of Pakistan. It reminds us that mental health is not a universal experience. It's deeply influenced by our culture, our society, and our personal circumstances. Mental health, it's not just about those who are diagnosed with disorders. It's about you, it's about me, and it's about the person sitting next to you. Whether we realize it or not, our mental well-being is interconnected with every part of our life. When our mental health is neglected, it impacts how we think, how we work, how we connect with others, and how we cope up with stress. And yet, it's still surrounded by stigma, especially in our part of the world where cultural pressures often discourage open discussions about mental well-being. This is exactly why we're here today. We're here to break that silence, to talk openly, to share, and most importantly, to learn. Mental health isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It's something that impacts our daily lives, our relationships, our work, and ultimately our future. But let's not just listen today. Let's engage. Let's ask ourselves the tough questions. How can we better support our mental health and those around us? How can we challenge the stigma that surrounds mental health in our society? How can we ensure that mental health becomes as normal to talk about as physical health? I believe that today's conference is not just an event, it's the start of a movement where we as individuals, as students, and as professionals start taking responsibility of our own mental well-being. A movement where we can push for systematic change, challenge outdated beliefs, and make mental health care accessible and acceptable for everyone, regardless of gender or circumstance. As we move through today's session, let's remember, the conversations don't end here. Let this conference be a stepping stone to greater understanding, advocacy, and action for mental health. Let's make today count, and more importantly, let's ensure that change we inspire today continues to grow long after this event concludes. I would now like to call upon stage Dr. Riaz, Dean of Social Sciences, to share some words on World Mental Health Day.
Assalamualaikum. First of all, I'm grateful to Dr. Mukati, who extended all support for this conference, then my mentor, Dr. Nishat, Dr. Khalda, and all the other colleagues, those who are present. Ladies and gentlemen, today's topic about indigenous perspective about the mental health of men and women is an issue which one has to probe and one has to think about it. Because after the globalization, there was a general perspective, there will be a united world with a unipolar approach and something else. But now things are changing. Well, ultimately, the level of development has not given the dividends to all people, those who are supposed to get all those. Because haves and haves not, there's a huge difference between haves and haves not. Initially, we were thinking that there will be less differences between east and west or the north and south. But time has proved that now the world health is being saturated in few hands. Few individuals have more wealth than entire nations, like owner of the Microsoft or the Facebook or somebody else. They are more rich than the nations, and that's alarming. That's a problem which is ultimately bringing us towards a point where we have to think about this. Like you have wealth, you have concentration, but you don't have a consideration for humanity. We have golden stories like Satar Idi Saab, Mother Teresa, Dr. Utfau, and many other people who dedicated their life for the humanity. But we have a people who you see gathered money, resources for themselves. We have a people who have their marriages in Bombay and other places where they spend millions of rupees on a single marriage activities, whereas there are people who have no money to have their 2 times meal. These type of differences are creating a problem which ultimately of a multicultural, aspect, including cultural, mental, psychological, social and economical reasons as well. So in this scenario, this topic given by UN for this year Mental Health Day is the indigenous perspective about the health of men and women is our focus, and then we have at least 5-6 scientific sessions until we'll cover till the evening. So we are hopeful that you as a young psychologists who are interested, who want to pursue their degree, should have understanding about your own social circumstances, in what type of society we are in, what our needs are, what are the different needs we have in our society, because there are some uniform and universal values and cultures, but along with this there are specific and unique cultural needs of any society that our society also had. We have a society where women, vulnerable classes, always they are at risk. We have seen everywhere how things are being exploited in the name of religion, in the name of obsolete culture, feudalism, tribalism and other things. That is the point on which we have to think. And last point which I want to mention is that very recently, rather from fall 2024, we have started our specific undergraduate program in psychology. We established our psychology lab, and ultimately we are trying to go with the world and try to achieve all those things. In this regard, we have a support from our psychological cluster, Dr. Khalda, then Dr. Noreen, and then we have Dr. Sana and other people, those who have been extending their support. Then it's a collective effort. It's a collective effort, and we want you to be part of our effort so that we can achieve this objective to make a peaceful society, to make an inclusive society with your support. Thank you very much, and we'll continue with conference proceedings. Thank you very much.
All right. So now we'll start the conference by inviting our esteemed guests one by one on stage and get enlightened by their insights on mental health. First up, we have Dr. Rizwana Zahid Siddiqui, who is currently working as a consultant clinical psychologist. So she completed her PhD in clinical psychology from the Institute of Clinical Psychology, University of Karachi. She has taught as a professor. All right. So since Dr. Rizwana isn't here right now, we'll move on to our next guest. So So our next respected guest is Professor Dr. Uzma Masoor, who is a PhD in clinical psychology. So she has served as the founder and chairperson of the psychology departments of the Air University and Bahari University in Islamabad. She is a practitioner, clinical psychologist, as well as the CEO of a private company offering psychological services. Her expertise lies in psychotherapy, assessment, and intervention in adults and children. Her further credentials include a certified practitioner of CBT as well as Addictive Psychotherapy UK, as a certified trainer of hypnosis as well as neurolinguistic programming from the US as well. Along with these numerous certifications, she is also a member of the American Psychological Association, Pakistan Association of Clinical Psychologists, and the Pakistan Psychological Association. She is also a member of several editorial boards, which include the Pakistan Journal of Clinical Psychology and Pakistan Journal of Psychology, both belonging to the Institute of Clinical Psychology, as well as the Journal of Gender and Social Sciences, and the Frontiers in Psychology, Lausanne, Switzerland. Her membership even extends to the National Guild of Hypnotists, USA. She is the Master Trainer of Hypnotists, as well as the National Federation of Neurolinguistic Psychology from the USA. With this, let's invite Dr. Uzma to take the stage.
I hope I'm audible to everyone. Thank you, Dr. Khalda, for inviting me here, and it is always lovely to talk about mental health because we need to have forums where we can speak about mental health. And as a practitioner for last many years, I usually have certain observations, certain experiences that I would like to share with everyone so that they may benefit to anyone who is working in the field, or even as a normal, regular, person dealing with psychology field. So today the topic I was given is basically the mental health of men and women both. I would like to stay a little bit inclusive and brief as well. This year's theme for mental health is basically the mental health at workplace. But again, as a country where we are still struggling with the basics of our life and general issues we are dealing with, it is very important to talk about certain very important issues because awareness is something that can bring the change. Usually, people are not aware of things, that is why they are unable to cope up with them. So my objective for today's talk is to bring a few issues in your perspective so that you can think over. And I truly believe as a human being, when we start thinking about something, we actually start doing something about it, about anything. So talking about the current crisis or current situation or current, mental health challenges, I would foremostly highlight the screen time and engagement in social media that is causing a big effect on people's mental health. Whether you are a young individual or maybe belonging to any age, this social media usage is affecting people's mental health, and most of the time is being consumed by using these gadgets. Unfortunately or fortunately, we have to stick to the online engagements as well, where we are working with the people abroad and in advanced countries, and most of the multinational companies, they have this mechanism of working during day and night, whatever the schedule is, but one has to be engaged in screen or use a screen. But other than that, we are so used to it that we most of the time are engaged in using or scrolling our social media, and I will be talking about the effects later on, but generally we spend most of the day or most of the time in using that social media, that impacts our relationships, that impacts our regular schedule, that also impacts our mental well-being. So this is the issue, number one. Secondly, with this economical crisis lately in Pakistan, we have started to experience the financial crisis more than ever. People have to make up or go to the large extent to meet the basic expenses of their normal routine activities. So this is the biggest change recently we have observed, and even most of the population is suffering from that. They have to struggle with meeting their regular expenses, and they have to keeping up their lifestyle, or making their children go to good universities, etc. So this is another crisis. Whatever I'm talking about is slightly different from the regular crisis, so I just wanted to highlight them. And third one, and the most important one, as a practitioner I have observed, is the psychological crisis in this generation, generation of my age mostly, I would say, who have to deal with the young generation, having issues with interactions, having the communication gaps. So it is also creating, mental health effects on ourselves. So it is very difficult to deal with this generation, how to approach them, how to talk to them, whether you are a senior, person at your workplace and you have to deal with this young generation, the Z generation. I think you would agree to that. And at home, in our families, we have to, deal with a lot of communication issues with this generation. So I have seen a lot of people coming up with these three highlighted issues recently. Now the effect on men and women, of course, is separate, because men, they usually get engaged more into their work, and they are, less available to any of these, psychological crises, because they have to do a lot, and that is another type of struggle they have to make to, earn, and, being a part of a competent environment. So I think their struggles are different. And women, most of the women generally, we have been reviewing different researches earlier, and there is a lot of literature available that women generally are more emotional, they are more sensitive to things. And our society, as a culture, we generally have this discrimination as well. So discrimination and sensitivity, that also brings some different challenges for a woman. But the issues I highlighted earlier usually have similar effects on men and women both, because they both are suffering, from this, the emotional crisis I mentioned earlier, the gadget issues and financial issues all. So now briefly I would come towards the, solutions I would propose. The first one is that we need, as a psychologist community, we need to take an inclusive approach, in which we should be highlighting the critical clinical issues. Rather, we have to look for some approaches that could help a normal human being to be more adjusted to their environment, whether it is home environment or whether it is their workplace environment. Awareness campaigns should be there, facilitating the community to come forward and talk about their issues and destigmatize the mental health problems. The third thing is we need to set our priorities. I'm talking not as a psychologist, but maybe as a normal person, as a regular member of the society, or as a normal human being. We need to set our priorities. That is very important. Whether it is your health, whether it is your work, whether it is your relationships, we have to set our priorities. It would reduce the tension, and it would bring better, understanding to life, and that ultimately would lead towards better mental health. And the next thing I would like to pose is the strengthening of the family system. The family system, the relationship management is very important, because with this, upsurge of, I would say, financial and, the I'm unable to recall the word, but actually with this upsurge of electronic media and everything, we have lost the contact between the family, the required family system, the family ties which are loosened now. And it is, generally people are approaching outside their families to, have solutions of their problems. So it is important if we can get back this family system in place where we can talk to each other and we can, support each other. We could understand each other in a better way. And that would also reduce the communication gap I was talking about earlier. And then healthy lifestyle is very important because recently it has been observed that people are avoiding to take medication. They want to be more, they would be more towards adjusting their life, adopting healthy lifestyles, physical activity, and eating habits, and leisure activities. So people are more interested in learning about some healthy lifestyles because it has proven by different researches that the healthy lifestyles are also very important for a healthy mental health. And then as a psychologist community, I have observed recently that most of the universities and most of the places, they have launched some psychological counseling services. Most of the institutions have done this. So it already is a kind of step towards reducing the stigma by itself. And I think, bringing information into light for everyone, like having anxiety, depression, or being stuck in your life stage, or being in a crisis, or having some relationship issues is very important. It is very important if you can create a balance between work and your life. That is basically not being very helpful for your career progression and for your relationship as well. So, organizing and establishing such facilities at different institutions would be helpful to reduce the stigma. Because when people would know that this is not something very, very unique to them, everybody is suffering from that and everybody needs help, would also, enhance mental health. And my last point is very important. Most of us already know who are from psychology community, and outside psychology community, they also know that we do not have any standardized regulatory body for us. There is no body, there is no organization, no proper counseling that is basically regulating these psychological services. This is very, I think, alarming. And from the forum of your conference, I would like to request the government, the stakeholders, and whoever can be part of this, that we need to establish the regulatory body as soon as possible to reduce malpractices and to enhance the mental health. So overall, I would like to wind up saying that men and women, they both are suffering from, mental crisis these days. As a practitioner, I always observe that the three issues I highlighted earlier are the main issues. Otherwise, we have a lot of other issues. For example, workplace issues are one part. Other social issues are also there. Economical issues are also there. But I have highlighted those issues that we need to bring in the light for everyone to think over, and it is no harm to take help. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Uzma. So now she highlighted several important points that are very widespread in our society. So first of all, we have screen time and engagement with social media, which is a major cause of communication gaps between the youth or children today. And that is why we see that so many families are actually broken families or empty shell families. So it basically signifies that there is a need to, remove the stigma that is associated with mental health and work to improve their relationships so that the people can rely on the family's support system itself rather than seeking help outside of it. So our next respected guest is Professor Muhammad Suleiman. So he is a seasoned academician. He has completed his master's degree from the University of Punjab, Lahore, and has served as the principal of Government Postgraduate College in Murray. So Professor Suleiman has served as a dignitary in various academic bodies of various institutions across the Punjab. He has received credit for a myriad of research articles, which include the socio-cultural impact of the 1947 migration on the people of Punjab and the Indo-Pak socio-cultural structure and bipolar relations, which have been published in the Indian national newspapers. Moreover, he is also famous for producing a 30-minute documentary on Bhagat Singh Shaheed Haveli and School in Bange, Faisalabad, which even earned 2 awards from India. So Professor Suleiman is a live member of the Pakistan Psychological Association as well as the Advanced Society of Muslim Psychologists and Fountain House Lahore. So some of his produced writings are on topics such as theories of personality, clinical psychology, social psychology, introduction to psychology, and psychopathology and psychotherapists. With this, let's put our hands together for Professor Suleiman. I will request you all to just wait a few minutes because there seems to be some sort of connectivity issue. So yeah, your patience is.
Good morning, everyone. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to the second session of today, which is the scientific session. I am honored to be moderating this enriching discussion, where we will explore diverse range of psychological research papers by the leading scholars of the field. So up first, I would like to call Ms. Hafsa Khan and Tuba Farooqi from Federal Urdu University of Arts, Science and Technology to discuss their research topic on gender discrimination, job satisfaction, emotional exhaustion, and monetary compensation, a study of Karachi's industrial sector. Everyone, please welcome them.
So, in the name of Allah, the most beneficial and the most merciful, respected panelists, teachers, and fellows, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Hafsa Khan, and today my research topic is trends of gender discrimination, job satisfaction, emotional exhaustion, and monetary compensation, a study on Karachi's industrial sector. So, first of all, I'd like to start with the abstract. So, if we see that gender discrimination is long discussed issue in the industrial sector, not only in Pakistan, but overall the world. And if I say the role of personal variables, then the personal variables such as age, skills, working experience, and any other personal variables are long being discussed, but still it remains a topical issue in the industrial sector. My study aimed to know the moderation effect of personal variable and evaluate how are these personal variables creating a moderation where gender discrimination is an independent variable and job satisfaction, emotional exhaustion, monetary compensation are the dependent variable. And my next aim was to know the prevalence of gender discrimination and similar variables among gender and industrial sector. So if I talk about my sample size consisted of 300 participants, where I took the sample size from 5 different industries, that is banking, software, pharmaceutical, and telecom, as well as FMCGs. My study is quantitative descriptive survey method design. After the sample size, I'd like to tell you about the test that I have conducted. So I conducted a correlation test, Pearson correlation test, ANOVA, t-test, as well as moderation effect, for which I used SPSS and macro extension. And if I talk about the results, then the correlation was significant for 2 of my variables. Similarly, t-test was also significant for 2 variables. Moderation was very slightly significant, and the regression was not significant. Gender discrimination. Gender discrimination is a disadvantage of all employees in industrial sector, be it a personal setting or it is a working place. In personal setting, if I talk about, it's a exclusion of an employee or restricting someone to do their own work. And if I talk about working environment, then there's politics, sex-related issues, and gender-related issues. Now, if I see gender discrimination is said to have a direct or an inverse relation with job satisfaction based upon different studies. And where gender discrimination exists, job satisfaction is declining, which means that is an inverse relation between gender discrimination and job satisfaction. And secondly, if I talk about emotional exhaustion, then emotional exhaustion is also said to have an inverse relation with job satisfaction. When emotional exhaustion increases, then job satisfaction automatically decreases. Now, if I explain emotional exhaustion in respect to COR theory, that's the resonance theory, it states again that when emotional exhaustion is present, the job satisfaction automatically decreases. And if for wage also, when wage is increasing, when wage only increases when job performance is there. And job performance is the input of the employee. So when the input increases automatically, the which is job performance, the satisfaction and monetary compensation increases automatically. Mutual investment model. Mutual investment model is the application of social exchange theory, which states that a social behavior is because of an exchange. For example, if I say that employer is investing in the well-being as well as for the career of the employee, then this is the exchange, and that's the behavior, and exchange we get in the form of increased work. And the employee is working on beyond the contract. Like we say that they forgot what is written in the contract and they start doing overwork. And inversely, the monetary compensation also increases for that. Now, rationally, as I mentioned before, I'm looking for a moderation model as well as the prevalence of gender as well as industry. So, moderation model was constructed where gender discrimination was an independent variable, and my moderators were age, skills and experience, and working hours, having dependent variable as emotional exhaustion, job satisfaction, and monetary compensation. Further, I ran a t-test on gender and industrial basis on independent and dependent variables. Hypothesis, as mentioned earlier, that I'm looking for the moderation analysis. So age and working hours are going to act as a moderator for gender discrimination as IV and the remaining variable as DV. Further, the skills and working experience are going to act as a moderator for the remaining same variables. Now, my third hypothesis is that correlation would exist among all variables. And further regression analysis for which gender discrimination is going to predict the remaining variables, which are job satisfaction, emotional exhaustion, and monetary compensation. For t-test, the prevalence of gender and industries is looked for between the variables, different variables that are gender discrimination, job satisfaction, emotional exhaustion, and monetary compensation. And my last hypothesis is for ANOVA, where significant difference of all these variables are seen among different industries. Methodology. The methodology consists of a quantitative descriptive survey method design where comparison is also seen. The sample was of 300 participants, where the sample was collected by the help of stratified convenient sampling. And then we approached multiple organizations by the help of permission letter, and with feasibility of their organization, we either chose an online method or a physical method of data collection. Now, if I explain you my data collection sample division, so the total sample size was of 300, and after which I divided them into 5 different industries, that is banking, software, telecom, pharmaceutical, and FMCG. Each industry gave us a sample size of 60. 60 was further divided into MNC and local sector. Like for example, in banking, 60 is the sample size, then it is divided into 30. That is from local bank 30 and from MNC bank 30. Then 30 was further divided into 15 and 15. Male 15 and female 15. And same goes for the rest of the industries. Inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. Now, inclusion criteria was that the sample should be in service and they are educated, having experience of 0 to 30 years, as well as they are in the age range of 19 till 58. And exclusion criteria included, I excluded those people who are not educated and they're having age is below 18 or above 58, and those who are not in service. Now, my measures, the questionnaire consists of 5 parts. Number 1 is consent, number 2 demographic variables, and 3 were the questionnaires, that is gender discrimination, job satisfaction, emotional exhaustion, and monetary compensation, which was already asked by the help of a demographic variable. So through consent, the confidentiality of the participants was ensured. Secondly, demographic variables, which consisted both qualitative and quantitative variables, which are gender, age, skills, working experience, skills, and different type of industry, like from which industry they belong to and department. The gender discrimination scale is of Joplin and Schoffer, which was of 1997, having a Cronbach alpha of 0.7. Second scale was job satisfaction of PETA, which was based on Maslow hierarchy of need. And last scale was emotional exhaustion of Wilmer, Shoffley, Strefford, and it was constructed in 2020. Ethical consideration. So when we are working as a researcher in psychology, we are bound to follow the ethical principles of APA, where APA's main role is to safeguard the confidentiality and anonymity of the participant. So through consent, which is safeguarded, as well as anonymity and privacy as well. Further, I told them the concept that the trends of these variables are to be studied among the industry and the data would not be shared with any higher authority. Moving forward for the result, the table 1 shows the frequency and percentages of the demographic variables, which are the qualitative demographic variables, where my data size was 300, half was, for example, 150 and 150. Like here, 150 was not total, but male were 153 and female were 148. So this is how these are the qualitative variables. And then if I talk about the quantitative variables, then the quantitative demographic variables range, mean, and standard deviation are given in the second table. Further, the psychometric properties of the scale is mentioned in table number 3, where you can see the number of items, alpha level, mean and standard deviation of the scale, and the subscale of questionnaires. Now correlation. as you can see in the table, that job satisfaction and emotional exhaustion have an inverse relation, where the value was minus 0.236, which shows that when job satisfaction increases, emotional exhaustion automatically decreases. Further, my next significant result was that job satisfaction and monetary compensation are directly related. If I talk about regression analysis, then gender discrimination was not able to predict the dependent variables, which are job satisfaction, emotional exhaustion, and monetary compensation. Moving on with the moderation analysis, a similar trend was seen for gender discrimination as independent variable, and for dependent variable we have job satisfaction and emotional exhaustion, where age was a moderator. Only these two results were significant, while the rest of them were not significant. And if I talk about working experience and working hours, then for gender discrimination as independent variable and monetary compensation as dependent variable, the results were found to be significant. The remaining results were found not to be significant. Further, if I talk about the skills, there were 3 skills that were asked from the participants, which were technical skill, soft skills, and management skills. And out of all these skills, none of the result was found to be significant when they were used as moderators. This is the table for soft skill training and management training skills. And you can see that the result was not significant. For moderation with gender discrimination and monetary compensation, I've already discussed before. And further for working experiences also I've discussed. Now t-test. The t-test clearly shows that gender wage gap does exist, where male are being paid more comparative to female. And the remaining tests are again not significant. If I talk about the industries, the local industries and the MNCs, there we see that monetary compensation was more in local industries comparative to MNCs. And further, job satisfaction was also found to be significant in local industries than MNCs. For ANOVA, a significant result was found between job satisfaction and emotional exhaustion and among the different industries. Since I've already discussed the result under each and every table, I'd like to move forward for implications. So, if I talk about the implication, this research would be fruitful for the policy makers in such a way that they can make policies for a healthy work environment which decreases the emotional exhaustion and increases the job satisfaction. Further, we can see gender discrimination needs to be studied and needs to be overcome. Like how can they decrease the gender discrimination for the employees? And last but not the least, the creative plan can be developed to study monetary compensation and the issues that arises from monetary compensation. Females are said to be paid less, so it should be considered that females are paid more or at the same level of males. So this was all from my research. I hope you got new knowledge from my paper. Thank you so much.
All right. So thank you, Ms. Hafsa, for providing us an insight into the gender discrimination as well as emotional exhaustion pertaining to the industrial sector. So now, since Professor Suleiman has finally joined us, I'll just brief you about his introduction. So Professor Suleiman is a seasoned academician. He has completed his master's degree from the University of Punjab, Lahore, and has served as the principal of Government Postgraduate College in Murray. Professor Suleiman has served as a dignitary in various academic bodies of various institutions across the Punjab. He has has received credit for a myriad of research articles which include the socio-cultural impact of the 1947 migration on the people of Punjab and the Indo-Pak socio-cultural structure and bipolar relations, which have been published in the Indian national newspapers as well. Moreover, he is also famous for producing a 30-minute documentary on Bhagat Singh Shahid's Haveli and School in Bange, Faizabad, which earned 2 awards from India. Professor Suleiman is a live member of the Pakistan Psychological Association as well as the Advanced Society of Muslim Psychologists and Fountain House, Lahore. Some of his produced writings are on topics such as theories of personality, clinical psychology, social psychology, introduction to psychology, and psychopathology and psychotherapies. With this, let's put our hands together for Professor Suleiman.
Important topic. Actually, we talk about the rights of the people. Hello. Yes. Some technical problem here. I actually, Dr. Khalda, are you listening me?
Yes, Dr. Suleiman, start करें, carry on. You are audible.
Yes, sir, we can hear you. You can speak now.
Actually, very important topic for which you people are talking today. We talk about the rights of the people, but we never talk about the duties of the people. And our gender issues are just concerned with this problem. We talk about the rights, women rights, but what are the duties? What are
results from the web?
What are the duties and what are the basics for us to do? We never think about this. I'm really glad that somebody come forward talk about this. Look, regarding gender issues, when जब से ये दुनिया बनी है, from the start, the beginning of the world, one thing is very important. The male and female जो आपस में prejudice, contradictions है, वो continue. Because in the early stage of life, in the beginning of life, when no civil life was there, women were the leaders of the tribes. They were the leaders. Or due to this reason, so definitely their gender discrimination arose at that time because women were the leaders of that time. But with the passage of time, when civic society developed, definitely at this due to this reason, masculine power, men took over the charge of the tribe as a leadership role. But due to that fact, women are still in that mode that they want to snatch back their leadership. And जो हम कार्ल गस्टव यूंग की कलेक्टिव अनकॉन्शियसनेस को स्टडी करें तो डेफिनेटली ये जो आर्चिटाइप या फिलॉसफी में हमें इसको बोलना नहीं चाहिए. एनिमा एंड एनिमस, द रोल ऑफ एनिमा एंड एनिमस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. टू स्टडी दिस इज मोर इंपॉर्टेंट. देखिए, इट्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन कि हु इज सुपीरियर, आइदर मेन और वुमेन. अगर हम इस चीज को अंडरस्टैंड कर जाएं तो हु इज सुपीरियर, तो डेफिनेटली दुनिया के बेशुमार प्रॉब्लम्स इसी वक्त हल हो सकती है. इट्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन विच आई पुट ऑल इन फ्रंट यू. अगर सपोज अगर एक ही वक्त में दुनिया के सारे मर्द मर जाएं, एक ही वक्त में पूरी दुनिया के सारे मर्द जो हैं वो डेथ हो जाए, और दूसरा हाइपोथेसिस है कि एक ही वक्त में दुनिया की सारी औरतें मर जाएं, तो इन विच केस जो ह्यूमैनिटी है उसको डेंजर नहीं है. ह्यूमैनिटी विल सर्वाइव. इट्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट मल्टी मिलियन क्वेश्चन. देखिए, मर्द लाख दफा मरते रहे, जो ह्यूमैनिटी है विल सर्वाइव because thousands of women will carry new babies. From those babies, new generations will come, will occur. लेकिन अगर वुमेन मर जाती है तो दुनिया में ह्यूमैनिटी कभी सर्वाइव नहीं कर सकती. दिस इज द पावर ऑफ प्रोडक्शन, जो गॉड लाइक क्वालिटी. आई रिमेंबर अ वेरी फेमस सॉन्ग ऑफ शैगी. I think God is a woman. So definitely we all believe that God has no sex, no gender. But why we frame God as a male? This is very important. Allah बड़ा है, खुदा बड़ा है. तो ये पूरी भाई ये क्यों नहीं कह सकते हम खुदा बड़ी है? It means from the ages we have developed a mind जिसमें हमने बिना वजह मर्द को सुपीरियरिटी पोजीशन पे ले आए, और इसका बाद अनफॉर्चुनेटली वुमेन सबसे ज्यादा इसकी जिम्मेदार है, रिस्पॉन्सिबल ऑफ दिस. देखिए, बराबरी या इक्वालिटी एक और चीज, बट अभी आप डीप 5 ट्रेड थ्योरी पढ़ते हो, जो क्वालिटीज, जो एबिलिटीज वुमेन कैरी करती हैं, दे आर डिफरेंट नेचर एज कंपेयर टू मेल. लेकिन जो पेशेंस है, टॉलरेंस है, टेम्परामेंट के हवाले से जो चीजें हैं वुमेन में वो बदरजहा अतम ज्यादा है, और मेल की कुछ और एबिलिटीज हैं. तो व्हाई वी मैच देम इन द सेम कंटिन्यूआ? दिस इज द प्रॉब्लम ऑफ अस. हमें उनको डिफरेंट पोजीशंस पे रख के अगर हम मेल फीमेल को स्टडी करें. देखिए, मेरे बच्चों को मेरी बेगम ने पढ़ाया, मेरी मिसेज ने पढ़ाया, क्योंकि मैं तो 2 दफा बच्चा नहीं सुनाता, मुझे तो मैं तो उसको थप्पड़ मार दूंगा. लेकिन मेरी मिसेज ने 100 दफा भी बच्चा गलत पढ़ता है, लेकिन उसके अंदर जो पेशेंस, जो टॉलरेंस, जो सिंपैथी, जो एम्पैथी, ये एटीट्यूड जो है हमारी खवातीन में, वो मर्दों से कहीं ज्यादा है और कहीं उनकी नेचर डिफरेंट. तो क्यों हम एक ऐसी चीज खड़ी कर रहे हैं सोसाइटी? मैं समझता हूँ इससे डायलेमा स्पेशली कि हम उन चीजों में औरतों को इन्वॉल्व करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, या उस डोमेन में मर्दों को ले जाते हैं जो हमारे सेपरेट जेंडर से स्पेसिफिक है. एक जनरल एबिलिटी डेफिनेटली, लेकिन जो स्पेसिफिक एबिलिटीज है उन पे हम फोकस नहीं करते. दिस इज द डायलेमा ऑफ टुडे. देखिए, बच्चियों के पास, बेटियों के पास जो एबिलिटी है वो मेरे स्टूडेंट्स ने 3-4 रिसर्चेज हैं जिन घरों में लड़का जो है फर्स्ट बॉर्न होता है, लड़के बड़े होते हैं, हमारा क्राइम रेशियो उन घरों में बहुत ज्यादा है. बेशुमार क्रिमिनल्स या तो फर्स्ट बॉर्न है या उन फैमिली से हैं जहां फर्स्ट बॉर्न मेल होते हैं. اب جہاں سے فیمیل کی بات کریں, ڈیفینیٹلی اگر فیمیل گھر میں بیٹی بڑی ہے تو آئی ڈو بلیو, بلکہ آپ سب اس پہ ریسرچ بھی کریں, تو کریمنل ریٹ ایسی فیملیز میں ان آف سپرنگز میں بہت کم ہوگا جہاں بیٹی بڑی ہوتی ہے, بیکاز وہ جو ماں کے ساتھ بیٹی ہوتی ہے وہ بچوں کے اندر اوبیڈینس اینڈ کمپلائنس کے ایٹیٹیوڈ ڈیولپ کرتی ہے. تو یہ بڑی بیسک چیز. اب مرد جو ہیں, اچھا وہ بلا وجہ ہم ان چیزوں میں گھسیڑ رہے ہوتے ہیں, بھائی یہ باہر کی ساری ایکٹیویٹیز مردوں نے کرنی, بھائی کیوں کرنی. 2 years earlier, I was invited by the Muslim Commercial Bank to interview operational manager post. So out of 42, I recommended 38 female operational managers. تو مجھے کہا گیا جناب یہ تو آؤٹ آف دا ہاؤس, آؤٹ آف دا ہوم سروس ہے, آپ نے عورتوں کو اتنا فوکس کر دیا. اور میں نے کہا آپ کی ڈیوٹی, آپ کی ضرورت ہے کہ ڈیوٹیفل ہو آپریشنل مینیجر. آپ کی نیڈ ہے کہ وہ کرپشن نہ کرے, آپ کی نیڈ ہے کہ ریگولیرٹی دیکھے, آپ کی نیڈ ہے کہ وہ سیلف جو ہے ڈٹرمنٹ ہو. تو اس چیزوں کو دیکھنے کے لیے میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ عورتیں مردوں سے کہیں بہتر. اچھا لامحالہ انہوں نے میرے مطابق, میرے وہ جو اسیسمنٹ کے مطابق ان بچیوں کو انہوں نے آپریشنل مینیجر کی پوسٹ پہ رکھ لیا. اب اس سال انہوں نے مجھے پھر بلایا, 1 سال نہیں بلایا, اب اس سال مجھے پھر انہوں نے بلایا, بھیا آپ نے جو آپریشنل مینیجرز ہمیں بتائی تھی وہ آپ کے کرائیٹیریا بتائے کہ کرائیٹیریا پہ 100% فٹ نکلتی. اب ان بچیوں نے بڑا اچھا پرفارم کیا اور ان کی پرفارمنس مردوں سے زیادہ. اب دس از کوشچن ٹو آل آف یو, کیا عورتوں کے لیے ہاؤس باؤنڈ یا ہاؤس کے گھر لمیٹڈ ایکٹیویٹیز ہوتی ہیں؟ نو, ایبسلیوٹلی ناٹ. ایک بڑی ہمیں سائیکالوجسٹ کو ایک بڑا فوکس کرنا پڑے گا کہ یہ طے کرنے میں, یہ کرائیٹیریا سیٹ کرنے میں کہ کون سی جابز یا کون سی جو ورک پلیسز ہیں وہاں پر فیمیلز زیادہ پوٹینشیل کیری کرتی ہیں اور ان کا آؤٹ کم مردوں کی نسبت بہتر. اگر ہم اس میں کامیاب ہو جاتے ہیں, میں نہیں سمجھتا کہ ہمارے میں یا ہمارے یا پریزنٹ ڈے سائیکالوجسٹ جو ہیں ان میں یہ ایبلٹی نہیں ہے, بٹ ڈیفینیٹلی وی ہیو ٹو یوٹیلائز دیٹ. کرائیٹیریا پہلے ڈٹرمن کریں اور اس کرائیٹیریا کے مطابق ان ہمارے میل اور فیمیل کے جو جاب اورینٹیشن ہو, جاب میں ان میں ریکروٹمنٹ ہو, تو آپ دیکھیں کہ پاکستان پہلے سے بہت تیزی سے ترقی کرے گا. رائٹ, یہاں پر جو کہا جاتا ہے کہ عورتوں میں یہ کمی ہے, جو ایک اسٹیریوٹائپس بنے ہوئے ہیں, یہ اسٹیریوٹائپس نے ہماری قوم کو بہت پیچھے ڈال دی ہے. ہم کبھی بھی اس ملک میں آگے ہماری ترقی نہیں ہو سکتی جب تک ہم ان اسٹیریوٹائپس کے بندھن کو نہ توڑیں. تو یاد رکھیں یہ بڑی بیسک چیزیں ہیں. میل کا اللہ تعالیٰ نے اپنا ایک ایریا آف ڈومیننس رکھا ہے, فیمیل کا ایک اپنا ایریا آف ڈومیننس رکھا ہے. ہمیں ان کو ایک طے کرنا ہے, ہمیں ان کو دیکھنا ہے اس کے ریسرچ اورینٹیشن کی بیس پہ اور تھیوریٹیکل اینڈ کوالیٹیٹو اور کوانٹیٹیو دونوں ریسرچز کی بیسس پہ میں سمجھتا ہوں ہمیں یہ طے کرنا چاہیے کہ کون سا جو ایریا اسپیسیفائڈ فیمیل کے لیے اور کون سا مردوں کے لیے, اور اگر اس کے مطابق ہم اپنی نیکسٹ جنریشن کو ریکروٹ کریں رائٹ مین فار دا رائٹ جاب, اس کے مطابق ہم اگر کریں تو آپ دیکھیے گا کہ پاکستان کی پرفارمنس ترقی بہت بہتر ہوگی. میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ ہمیں ان ایشوز کو پھر سپیریورٹی, آپ دیکھیں کمپلیکس جو ہے, یہ کرائم ریشو جو ہے یہ فیمیل میں تو بہت کم ہے. ہمارے ملک کا کرائم ریشو جو کریمنل ہیں وہ سارے میل ہیں. وجہ وائی, بیکاز ہم نے سارے ہی نیگیٹو کام جو ہے وہ مردوں کے لیے مختص کیے ہوئے. بس یہ بھی نیگیٹو, یہ بھی غلط ہے. بھائی سارے نیگیٹو کام مردوں کے لیے اچھے کام کیوں نہیں ہو سکتے؟ ہماری پنجاب میں ایسے مرد جو خواتین اپنی بیویوں کے ساتھ مل کے گھر کا کام بٹاتے ہیں ان کو تانے ملتے ہیں, ان کو یہ کہا جاتا ہے جی آپ کیا کہتے ہیں کہ بیوی کے ساتھ اس کی بڑے ایسے پنجابی کے الفاظ اس کے لیے بولے جاتے ہیں. واٹ نان سینس. یہ تو اسلام نے کہیں نہیں لکھا کہ کھانا پکانا جو روٹی پکانا عورت کا کام ہے. اگر کہیں لکھا تو مجھے بتا دے. اسلام نے تو نہیں لکھا. جو تو ہماری سوسائٹی نے ایسی یہ ویلیوز یا نارم سیٹ کرتی ہیں جو کہ بالکل irrelevant اور نیگیٹو ہے. اسلام نے تو کہیں نہیں کہا کہ عورتیں جو ہے وہ بینکنگ کا کام نہیں کر سکتی. اگر کہا تو مجھے بتا دیں. تو ہم باتیں وہ کر رہے ہیں جو جن کا نہ تو ہمارے ریلیجن سے تو تعلق ہے اور نہ ہمارے بڑوں کے ان کی باتوں سے کو تعلق. اور انفارچونیٹلی اب وقت کے ساتھ ساتھ یہ ہم ایک تھوڑا سا یہ میں ڈائلیما ہے یہ بھی کہ ہماری جو عورتیں جب مائیں ہیں ڈیو ٹو سرٹن ریزنس انسیکیور فیل کر رہے ہیں. انسیکیورٹی ہماری سوسائٹی میں بڑی قریب کر دی ہے اور اس کے ذمہ دار میں سمجھتا ہوں خواتین خود بھی. ایک خاتون جب گھر سے نکلتی ہے نا اس کو مردوں کی طرح بریو ہونے کی ضرورت ہے. میں ریسنٹلی ایک جگہ سے ایک چوک تھا بڑا چوک. اچھا وہ ایک لڑکی نے بایا کیا ہوا تھا نقاب کیا ہوا تھا. ادھر سے ٹریفک سگنل گرین ہوا ادھر سے اس نے کراسنگ شروع کر دی سڑک. بھائی آپ گھر سے باہر نکلی ہو تو آپ یہ تو آبزرو کرو یہ تو دیکھو کہ تم کہاں کھڑی ہو. پیدل چلنے والوں کے لیے بھی کچھ ذمہ داریاں ہیں. ادھر سے ٹریفک سگنل گرین ہوا انہیں سڑک کراس شروع کر دی. اچھا 5-7 موٹر سائیکلوں والے زخمی ہو گئے 2-3 گاڑیاں جناب لگی. لیکن اس اللہ کی بندی نے نہ دائیں دیکھا ہے نہ بائیں دیکھا وہ سیدھی کراس کر کے گئی ہے. کیونکہ اس کو گھر میں کہا جاتا ہے گھر میں ماں اس کو کہتی ہے کہ بیٹی تمہیں سیدھا جانا ہے اور سیدھا واپس آنا ہے. اور یہ بڑا ڈائلیما ہے ہماری سوسائٹی کہ مائیں بچیوں کو خود جو ہے فیئر جو ہے ان کے اندر انجیکٹ کر رہی ہیں. میں یہ نہ کرو یہ نہ کرو. تو ڈیفینیٹلی جب آپ کسی چیز سے ڈریں گے تو وہ چیز سوسائٹی میں زیادہ قریب کرے گی وہ چیز زیادہ ڈیولپ ہوگی. اور دوسرا ڈیفینیٹلی عورتوں کو گھروں میں بند کرنے کے لیے سوسائٹی میں باقاعدہ ایسی موومنٹ چلتی ہیں پاکستان میں بار بار چلی ہیں کہ عورتوں کو ان چیزوں سے دور رکھا جائے جو کہ اگر وہ عورتیں ہوں تو پاکستان زیادہ تیزی سے ترقی کرے. بینکنگ سیکٹر میں خواتین مردوں کی نسبت فار بیٹر پرفارمر ہیں. اس کی بہترین مثال ڈاکٹر شمشاد تھی جو اسٹیٹ بینک کی گورنر بنی ہے. آپ ان کی پروگرس دیکھ لیں اور باقیوں کی بھی دیکھ لیں. لائک وائز اور بھی بے شمار جو ہیں ڈپارٹمنٹس ہیں جن میں فیمیل کی جو پرفارمنس ہے وہ میل سے بہت بہتر ہے. بٹ یو شوڈ کم آؤٹ آف دیز شیلس. میری بیٹی ایک وہ ملیشیا میں سروس کر رہی ہے ماشاءاللہ. شی از ویری کانفیڈنٹ. شی از دیر سرونگ یو اے ای میں. اور میں نے کبھی اپنے گھر میں بیٹوں کو بیٹیوں پر فوقیت نہیں دی. تو یہ چیزیں ایک تو گھر سے کانفیڈنس ہو. لیکن یہ بچی کو کہنا کہ دنیا بڑی خراب ہے دنیا بڑی بری ہے تو بھائی آپ اس کو پھر گھر میں رکھیں گھر میں قید رکھیں کہ دنیا بھائی جاب بھی کرنی ہے پڑھنا بھی ہے سروس بھی کرنی ہے اور آپ نے دنیا سے ڈرنا بھی ہے. تو یہ چیزیں پیرلل نہیں چل سکتی. یہ چیزیں سائملٹینیس نہیں چل سکتی. یاد رکھیں you should come out of these shells. I got admission in Punjab University in 1986 and at that time میری 45 کی کلاس میں اور فیمیل صرف 39 میں اونلی 1 گرل ایک لڑکی تھی جو بایا پہن کے آتی تھی. وہ بھی کہتے تھے یہ ہمارا ریلیجن کو ایشو. ادروائز آل ادرز ور وداؤٹ بایا. اچھا اب میں کلاس میں جاتا ہوں. ابھی کلاس میں گیا ہوں جو بی ایس کی شروع ہوئی ہے کوسار میں. آؤٹ آف 50 بچیاں ہیں ان میں سے 49 جو ہیں وہ بایا کے ساتھ کلاس میں بیٹھی ہوئی نقاب کیا ہوگا. وٹ از دس؟ ہم डिटीरियोरेशन की तरफ जा रहे हैं। हम खौफजदा कर रहे हैं अपनी बच्चियों को। मैं डेफिनेटली याद रखें, ये जो हमारा फैमिली स्ट्रक्चर या सोशल स्ट्रक्चर है, हम अपनी बच्चियों को खुद खौफजदा कर रहे हैं, उनको मर्दों से दूर कर रहे हैं। पता नहीं मर्द की बला चीज है। मैं जब आप मर्दों के साथ एक ही ऑफिस में काम करके फिर पता चलता है कि कोई मर्द कोई गैर कोई एलियन या किसी दूसरे सियारे की मखलूक नहीं। वो बच्चियां और बच्चे जो को एजुकेशन में पढ़ते हैं, याद रखें उनका कॉन्फिडेंस लेवल जॉब में उन बच्चियों और से बच्चों से ज्यादा होता है जो सेपरेट एजुकेशन से आते हैं। जो चंद एक मेरी एक्सपीरियंसेस, मेरी इंडिया में मैं गया हूँ, मैं बांग्लादेश में गया हूँ, दिस इज लास्ट बातें हैं, वहाँ उन्होंने बच्चियों को कॉन्फिडेंस दिया है। वहाँ बच्चियां जो हैं टॉल प्लाजा
Excuse me, Dr. Suleiman. We are getting short of time. Will you please wind up your conversation?
ओके जी, थैंक यू जी वेरी मच डॉक्टर खालदा, वंडरफुल पर्सन जी। डॉक्टर खालदा हमारे को सार कॉन्फ्रेंस में भी आई थी और बड़ा अच्छा पेपर प्रेजेंट किया था। मुझे उन्होंने कहा था कि जो मेरी अपनी बातें हैं, मैंने आपके दिल की बातें की हैं। आई होप अगर किसी को कोई बात बुरी लगी है, सॉरी फॉर दैट। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
All right, so thank you, Professor Suleiman, for providing an insight into gender discrimination and the importance of women. So women are usually trolled for their internal characteristics such as being overly emotional or expressing empathy, etc. But what many don't know is that how important these characteristics actually are. And if we are able to harness them, it will surely lead to our success as a nation. All right. So our last respected speaker is Dr. Rizwana Zahid Siddiqui, who is currently working as a consultant clinical psychologist. She completed her PhD in clinical psychology from the Institute of Clinical Psychology, University of Karachi. She has taught as a professor in numerous colleges and universities, with her teaching experience being more than 30 years. Her clinical practice extends beyond 20 years, and she has many times been appointed by many organizations to conduct psychological assessments. Some of her publications include, but not limited to, topics pertaining to social anxiety, single parenting, depression, schizophrenia, and many others. So with this, a round of applause for Dr. Rizwana.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear audience, Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Rizwana, and as today's topic is an indigenous perspective on psychological issues of men and women. Basically, this perspective values holistic approach. Holistic approach emphasizes the interconnectedness of mind, body, spirit, and community. The psychological issues are often understood not in isolation but as being influenced by community wellness, historical trauma, and the environment. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, there is a very limited support on mental health. The role of community in our, yes. Yes. The role of community in mental health is very limited support regarding mental health issues. Most of the communities are, you are looking that, okay. Specifically in Pakistan, there is very limited mental health support, and specifically in communities, there is very discouragement. These are few things which are very much discouraging. Social stigma, lack of finance support, lack of availability of mental health services, community, mindset of other methods of treatment, जिसमें जादू टोना और दम दरूद वगैरह ज़्यादा शामिल है. मेंटल हेल्थ साइकेट्रिस्ट और साइकोलॉजिस्ट के पास लोग कम आ रहे होते हैं. And lack of awareness is obviously, and lack of education in our society. Who are approaching toward the mental health? There are very few percentage in Pakistan. According to a world survey in 2024, the 13.6% of Pakistani expresses concern regarding their mental health and stresses, and 85.8% are not appear to find mental health care. Specifically, according to a World Health Survey, women have a significantly higher frequency of depression and anxiety in adulthood, while men have a largest prevalence of substance use disorder and antisocial behavior. Women also have higher prevalence of depression and anxiety disorder due to the genetic and biological factors. There are many cases of depression is mishandled and they become major depression and psychotic disorder, schizophrenia and something else. Here I am sharing one of my case. Female client with bipolar disorder comes for treatment, but her postpartum depression mishandled and it becomes severe schizophrenic. तो उसमें सिंपल जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग थी, उनके जो हस्बैंड थे वो इस चीज़ को अंडरस्टैंड नहीं कर पा रहे थे कि शी इज़ इन डिप्रेशन. और जब उनके हेलुसिनेशन स्टार्ट हुए, शी इज़ कंप्लेनिंग दैट आई एम विजुअलाइजिंग और आई एम मीटिंग विद समवंस लाइक शाहरुख खान मुझसे मिलने आते हैं या जावेद शेख मिलने आते हैं, ऐसी फैंटेसी लाइफ शी स्टार्ट्स. And husband not understand this case, and this case mishandled without medication, and it becomes schizophrenic client. Unfortunately, there are very limited mental health providers. In Pakistan, general, psychiatric or other physician, clinical psychologists, clinical social worker, clinical nurses and specialists are very limited. Like you can find it in Aghan, or nursing care is very worst condition in overall Pakistan hospitals. But in few hospitals and clinics, there is trained nurses that can provide the mental health care or feedback about the problem or their issues. British Asian Trust, a survey indicates that Pakistan has only approximately 500 psychologists and 400 psychiatrists out of 235.5 million of population. It is the research of 2022. So here I am interested to share some of my data from my clinic. During 2020 to 2023, the input of the patient that reports at clinic, the ratio of the percentage of the male and men and women, or male or female mental health issues, female age 25 to above, about 28%, male age 25 to above, about 21%. That this percentages, those reported in this period. Teenage adolescents, age 12 to 22, 25%. Teenage adolescents, boy boys age 12 to 22, 11%. Children age 3 months to 10 year, 15%. The prevalence of female depression 31%. ये वो सारे केसेस हैं जो रिपोर्ट हुए हैं क्लिनिक में, सब गुलशन साइकेट्रिक हॉस्पिटल्स डेटा which I have observed in this clinic. Depression 31% in female, schizophrenia 6%, anxiety 14%, marital problem 21%, family adjustment issues 23%, OCD and other problems 5%. Here you can see the marital problem and family adjustment issues are more or less same. If we combine it 23 and 21%, it becomes 44% are familial issues. Prevalence disorder in male. Here is the data. Male में schizophrenia, bipolar disorder is, I observed that there is more patient in bipolar disorder. Males, schizophrenia 4%, 20% bipolar disorder, 4% schizophrenia. In the male, depression is about 10%, anxiety 17%, marital problem 12%, OCD and others 9%, and avoidance to get psychological treatment. Male के साथ ये issue होता है कि they are avoiding. उनकी wives आ रही हैं, अपनी wives को वो ज़रूर भेजते हैं treatment के लिए. But when I am calling to her husbands, क्योंकि marital counseling और family issues जो ऐसे होते हैं जिसमें husband wife की presence बहुत ज़रूरी है, तो दोनों की counseling ज़रूर होती है. But husbands are not willing to come for the psychotherapy. फीमेल्स का ट्रीटमेंट होता है और वो करवाती भी हैं. वो जब अपने हस्बैंड्स को लेके आने के लिए इंसिस्ट करती हैं तो उनके सेशन ड्रॉप हो जाते हैं. दे डिसकंटिन्यूज देयर ट्रीटमेंट. टीनेजर एडोलेसेंट गर्ल्स के इश्यूज, गर्ल्स एंड बॉयज दोनों के इश्यूज होते हैं. यहाँ पे भी यही इशू है कि बॉयज आर नॉट विलिंग टू कम फॉर द साइकोलॉजिकल ट्रीटमेंट, psychotherapy. They are not interested to take the psychotherapy from the therapist. There are many social reasons, but boys are less interested to treat. Girls, the depression in girls found in the period of 2022 and 2023, between 20 and 23. Conduct disorder, depression 28%, conduct disorder 22%, schizophrenia 80%. अच्छा, teenagers बच्चों में चूँकि हार्मोनल चेंजेस आते हैं तो schizophrenic tendency बहुत बच्चों में होती है और उनको अगर उसी वक्त मेडिकेशन, साइकेट्रिक ट्रीटमेंट एंड साइकोलॉजिकल ट्रीटमेंट से कंट्रोल कर लिया जाए तो इट विल बी वेरी गुड फॉर बेटरमेंट और मेंटल हेल्थ प्रॉपर तरीके से मिल जाए तो वो बेहतर हो जाते हैं. अदरवाइज इट कुड बी in worse condition. Mobiphobia, it's a term of internet recently. I have observed that बच्चों को मेल फीमेल दोनों को एक mobiphobia, detachment of mobile from them. Emotional problem 17%. अच्छा, children from 3 months to 10 years. ऑटिज़म बहुत रिपोर्ट हो रहे हैं बच्चों के. ऑटिज़म केसेस जो मेरी क्लिनिक में रिपोर्ट हुए कम हुए हैं, बट देर आर परसेंटेज ऑफ 10% ऑटिज़म केसेस. बिहेवियरल प्रॉब्लम 20%. न्यूरो डेवलपमेंटल डिसऑर्डर. In the neurodevelopment disorder, there are some issues of mental retardation, IQ level issues, borderline IQ, slow learner बच्चे बहुत होते हैं, तो ये 12% है. इमोशनल प्रॉब्लम, स्कूल एडजस्टमेंट प्रॉब्लम बच्चों में बहुत आता है. लर्निंग डिसेबिलिटी 18% एंड अदर प्रॉब्लम्स 8%. There is a very interesting book I would like to share with you. The name of book is Men Are From Mars and women are from Venus. John Gray wrote this book, and you can find it on internet also, and very interesting book. You can follow this book. He describes some of the things which I would like to share with you. John Gray writes that men and women generally are unaware that they have different emotional needs. As a result, they do not instinctively know how to support each other. Men typically give in relationship what men wants, while women give what women want. Each mistakenly assume that the other has the same need and desire. As a result, they both end up dissatisfied and resentful. Both men and women feel they give and give but do not get back. They feel their love is unacknowledged and unappreciated. The truth is they are both given love but not in the desired manner. The primary love he described in men and women. Women need to receive care, understanding, respect, devotion, validation, reassurance, and men needs to receive trust, acceptance, appreciation, admiration, approval, encouragement. Here I would like to share a case of my client. One of the female came with me to me for her decision making of separation case from his husband. She separated from his husband since last 6 months, have 2 children, and she was very confused that could she take this decision or not, and very aggressive about her husband. There is some personality problem with his husband. When she got the counseling, और interesting बात ये है कि उसके husband ने ही appointment लिया था और उसको भेजा कि before taking the khula, she was getting the full khula, you have to meet with the any counselor. तो उसने appointment लिया, अपनी wife को भेजा, and he didn't came as usual, जैसे husband जो है वो आने में avoid करते हैं. तो I think 5 to 6 sessions, she take the 5 to 6 session, and finally when she go to the court, जिस दिन वो court जा रही थी अपने husband के साथ court जाती थी उसी की गाड़ी में बैठ के, और मुझे बता के फ़ोन करके गई कि मैडम आज मेरा डिसीजन है और मैं आज फाइनल कर दूंगी. अच्छा, उसको मैंने ये नहीं, ज़ाहिर है हमारी थेरेपी के कुछ रूल्स होते हैं, मैंने ये नहीं कहा था कि आप डिवोर्स खुला ले लें या नहीं लें, और उसको मेंटली तौर पे जो भी डिस्कशन हमारा हुआ था वो उसके जहन में था, एंड शी रिफ्यूज टू गेट खुला एट द एंड. बिल्कुल जब डिसीजन होने लगा था तो उसने, क्योंकि बहुत सारी चीज़ें ऐसी होती हैं जब काउंसलिंग में डिस्कस होती हैं, तो शी रियलाइज, एंड हर हस्बैंड ऑल्सो रियलाइज दैट समथिंग इज रॉन्ग विद हिज पर्सनैलिटी एंड ही इज़ डूइंग समथिंग रॉन्ग. तो उसका ये केस जो है वो खुला के लिए डिसाइड नहीं हो सका, और ये वो लोग फिर दोबारा से उनका पैचअप हो गया. अच्छा, नाउ भाई आपका चल नहीं रहा है स्लाइड, नेक्स्ट स्लाइड कर दें, नेक्स्ट स्लाइड कर दें, ये आपका रिमोट, ठीक है, ओके, थैंक्स. अच्छा, अब हमें करना क्या है? द की पॉइंट्स टू रिड्यूस मेंटल हेल्थ इश्यूज. We have some key points. I am just briefly describing this. Number 1 is promote regular physical activities. अभी मेरे ख्याल में जिनको awareness है, जिनको knowledge है, educated हैं, they are doing all these things. promote regular physical activities, engage open communication. Open communication is very important, and in counseling basically the mindset and जो mind change होता है, अगर आप खुद ही चीज़ों को सोचते रहेंगे और उसको मिसहैंडल करते रहेंगे या किसी नेबर से या किसी घर वाले से ऐसे डिस्कस करते हैं तो वो उन इश्यूज़ को प्रोफेशनली हैंडल नहीं करता है. When you are coming to a professional psychologist, they can handle and treat you properly, and you can able to make decisions or improve yourself. Encourage open communication, foster work-life balance. काम में बैलेंस ज़रूर होना चाहिए. आपकी अपनी लाइफ है, आपको टाइम देना चाहिए, अपने लिए भी टाइम देना चाहिए, और बैलेंस वर्क एंड योर पर्सनल हेल्प और पर्सनल फैमिली लाइफ में बैलेंस ज़रूरी है. लाइक ग्लोबल असेसमेंट फंक्शनिंग में हम देखते हैं फैमिली फंक्शनिंग, सोशल फंक्शनिंग एंड occupational functioning. All these things need balance. Focus on self-care, mindfulness. अपने mindfulness के लिए और उसके लिए भी थोड़ा सा टाइम निकालना चाहिए, self-care करना चाहिए. Promote social connections. Today's life is very busy and most of us is engaged in mobile phones. The social connection is very important. उसमें आप अपने फ्रेंड्स के साथ आउटिंग कर रहे हैं, हंस रहे हैं, बोल रहे हैं, दैट इज़ मोर हेल्दियर देन अ मोबाइल यूज़. थैंक यू.
All right, so thank you, Dr. Uzma, Dr. Rizwana, for enlightening us about the limited mental health support in Pakistan. Pakistan, especially being a country where mental health disorders are so prevalent, according to your statistics. So one thing, I guess, which was new for all of us was that certain hormonal imbalances in the teenage years can actually lead to schizophrenia. So we really enjoyed hearing to your cases, and thank you so much. All right, so there is one little announcement that I would like to make. Can I please request Ms. Uzma Hanif, Bushra Iqbal, Dr. Noreen Jaffrey, Manur Tahir, Kainat Khemani, Zara Naqvi, and Dr. Noreen Begum to just please come up and fill in the front rows so that the whole process can go smoothly. Thank you.
So we would be continuing with our research paper session, and for that I would like to invite our very remarkable and honorable session chair, Ms. Munazza Sheikh. Ms. Munazza is an associate professor and chairperson of the Department of Psychology in the University of Sindh, Jamshoro. Dr. Sheikh brings with her an impressive range of skills in handwriting analysis, NLP, and counseling. Her field of specialization spans indigenous research, criminal psychology, educational psychology, neuropsychology, and positive psychology. With over 25 publications in international research journals, include 3 articles in X-category journals and 2 book chapters, Dr. Sheikh has made a significant impact in the field of psychology. So for that, I would like to invite Dr. Sheikh on stage. Everyone, please warmly welcome her. Next, I would like to invite our second session chair, Dr. Zainab Hussain Bhutto. Dr. Zainab has a PhD in clinical psychology and is a practicing psychologist, while also currently serving as the Dean Professional Psychology, Bahia University and the director in Institute of Professional Psychology, Bahia University since 2020. She has several national and international publications and conference presentations to her credit and has served in various national and international conferences as the session chair. Furthermore, she has been part of numerous societies which have contributed to major advancements in the field of psychology. So everyone, please warmly welcome Dr. Zainab on stage. We will now be moving forward with the presentations of the research papers. Up first, we have Dr. Rabia Mushtaq from the Institute of Clinical Psychology, University of Karachi, who will be presenting her research on the predictive association between perceived social support and marital satisfaction in married couples in Pakistan. Dr. Rabia, can you hear us?
जी अब मुझे आ रही है. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Please
Should we start?
Yeah, thank you.
अच्छा, I think कि आपकी स्क्रीन वहाँ पे शेयर हुई है, तो मैं यहाँ से स्टार्ट ले लूँ.
Ma'am, you can share your screen. You have full rights.
Is it possible if you can share from there?
Ma'am, no, ma'am, it's not possible. You can share on your side.
Okay, just a minute. Is it visible?
मैम नहीं है, ये आसमा की, ये बुशरा की, नूरी की, रिजवाना, अफजा, नहीं है, कायनात की, नहीं हमें यही शेयर की है.
Ma'am, you can share on your side. Can you see the share button?
मैं कर रही हूँ, बट ये यहाँ से हो नहीं पा रहा है, इसलिए.
Can you see the share button?
स्क्रीन पे वैसे ऑन कर लो, मैं यहाँ से प्रेजेंट कर देती हूँ, क्योंकि ये कनेक्ट वो शेयर नहीं हो रही है यहाँ से मेरे पास से.
कैसे शेयर करूँगा? आप यूज़ में दे दें मुझे, मैं कर दूँगा, क्योंकि अभी मैं सिस्टम लॉगिन तो नहीं कर सकता ना प्राइवेट.
Since we're having some sort of connectivity issues regarding the slides, we would be moving on with our next presenter. So I would like to call Ms. Uzma Hanif from Federal Urdu University of Arts, Science and Technology to discuss their study on the difference between fear of death and religiosity among men and women. Also, all presenters are requested to take only 15 minutes in order to ensure the steady pace of the session. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Uzma Hanif. The paper I'm going to present today is about difference between fear of death and religiosity among men and women. The study was conducted by Uzma Hanif and Dr. Shiba Farhan from Federal Urdu University of Arts, Science and Technology. First, I will talk about the introduction of two variables which were used in this study, which was death anxiety and religiosity. What is death anxiety? Anxiety about death is the phenomena which is unavoidable in one's life side by side to culture and religion. It has been explained in different theoretical framework. No one can avoid the experience of death, and this thought decreases the sense of safety and develop sense of strong fear. What is religiosity? Religiosity is a belief in God accompanied by commitment to follow principle belief to be set by God. If we go through some literature review about these two variables, the term death anxiety was first introduced by Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud ने अपनी थ्योरी थैनाटोफोबिया में fear of death को ऐसे explain किया कि individual express fear of death as a coping mechanism for unresolved childhood conflicts. And also he says ego's desire to immorality. हमारे ईगो की ख्वाहिश होती है कि हम जो हैं हमेशा जिंदा रहें, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. तो जब ये सेंस हम में आती है तो इससे हमें फियर ऑफ डेथ होता है कि हम मर जाएंगे. द अदर थ्योरी वाज प्रपोज्ड बाय अर्नेस्ट बेकर विच इज़ कॉल्ड टेरर मैनेजमेंट थ्योरी. टेरर मैनेजमेंट थ्योरी में ये कहती है कि हमारी जो अवेयरनेस है फियर ऑफ डेथ को लेके वही हमें लीड करती है फियर ऑफ डेथ की तरफ. और एंड ऑल्सो इट मोटिवेट अस टू डू गुड डीड्स ताकि हम जो हैं अपनी ज़िंदगी का कोई मकसद बना सकें और लोग हमें पहचान सकें और याद रख सकें. द अदर थ्योरी वॉज प्रपोज्ड बाय एल्पर्ट एंड रोस which was they gave two distinct aspects about religiosity, which was intrinsic and extrinsic religiosity. अब इंट्रिंसिक रिलीजियोसिटी क्या होती है? इंट्रिंसिक रिलीजियोसिटी वो होती है जो हम अपने लिए करते हैं कि मैं नमाज पढ़ रही हूँ, मैं रोज़े रख रही हूँ, तो वो मैं अपने लिए कर रही हूँ कि मुझे अल्लाह ने ये कहा है कि मुझे ये करना है और ये मेरा फ़र्ज़ है करना. एंड एक्सट्रिंसिक रिलीजियोसिटी वो होती है जिसमें हम ये सब चीज़ें इसलिए करते हैं ताकि लोग हमें अच्छा कहें कि हम जो हैं बहुत अच्छे इंसान हैं, लोगों को दिखाने के लिए काम करते हैं. Now we'll talk about the significance of this study. The significance of the difference between fear of death and religiosity among men and women is important for several reasons. Understanding human behavior. We can gain better understanding of how people behave and cope with life's challenges. And it will also help impact on mental health practitioners. It will also help mental health practitioners to develop better intervention to support people dealing with fear and anxiety. Also, social and cultural implications. We can gain an understanding of the role of religion in society and the impact it has on individuals and communities. The hypothesis of this study was there will be a difference between the level of religiosity in males and females. There will be a difference between the level of fear of death in males and females. The research method was quantitative, data type was primary data, and sampling method was simple random sampling. Research questionnaires were adopted questionnaire. Sampling was sample of the study were comprised 200 males and females from different areas of Karachi. Inclusion and exclusion criteria of this study was individual between the ages of 25 to 50 years, and also individual only belong to the religion of Islam were included in this study. And individual who were below the age of 25 were excluded. Research instruments were used
Demographic form. Demographic form consists of basic information about age, gender, occupation, income, marital status, education, physical illness, mental illness, and religious interest. Instrument number 1 was Templer's Death Anxiety Scale, which the test reader's reliability of this scale is 0.83 and internal consistency is 0.76. It was in translated version, which was in Urdu. The instrument number 2 was Short Muslim Practice and Belief Scale. The reliability of the Urdu version is proved with 0.90 internal consistency indices. Now I'll talk about data analysis. Data analysis shows, data analysis was t-test, independent t-test, and it shows the significance difference between in the level of death anxiety, fear of death in males and females. Females' death anxiety was higher than men, and also the t-test revealed that men's religiosity level was lower than female. Also the discussion, there are many studies. There are a study which was conducted by Skullmaker in 1988 supports the result finding that men have less death anxiety than women. And also the other study which was conducted by Ellis et al. 2008 also support the current studies finding that women are more religious than men. Implications of this study. The study calls for a deeper understanding of the psychological and social factors that influence the relationship between religiosity and fear of death. This can help researchers identify the interventions that may be more effective in helping individuals cope with their fear of death. So the conclusion of this study reveals that women's fear of death is greater than men, and men's religiosity level is also lower than women. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Osma, for this insightful research on a deeply complex subject. Next, I would like to welcome Ms. Noreen Begum from MATRSC ANF Sindh, who will present her research on trends of drug use among male adolescents with substance use disorders. Ms. Noreen. Okay, Ms. Rabia.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, the paper that I'm going to present today is its patron or the trend or emergence of drug use among women with substance use disorders. So if we go to the data or the prevalence of epidemiology that is available around the globe, according to World Drug Report 2022, it has been reported that there are 284 million people around the globe are using drugs. So this data doesn't include tobacco and alcohol, but the rest of the drugs has been included. So it's alarming that women are also included in this. If you talk about the drugs that they are using among the women is amphetamine, synthetic drugs, painkillers, tranquilizers, and etc., which are actually not prescribed by the doctors for them to use, but they used to continue with consumption of those drugs. And unfortunately, the percentage goes with 45 to 49% of the women around the globe are reported as they are the history of using of amphetamine or methamphetamine. That includes ice, crystal, cocaine, and the rest of drugs. So unfortunately, there is physiological difference between women and the men. So when this woman starts with consuming any drug or using any drug, her physiology actually plays a role in changing the physiology or hormonal changes, as well as dependency of the women is more and more high as compared to the men. So if you talk about the alcohol, so if this woman starts with alcohol, then she becomes more dependent on it, more and more like times greater than men. So we have to keep this in mind. Beside of this, they are unfortunately at a higher risk of emotional problems, social problems, family problems, and other comorbid psychological issues. So why today we have chosen this, as we are talking about women's issues and the men issues. So if we look into the trend or the researches available around, you can't find any research regarding women with substance use. Yes, you can find, but on community level, maybe they are casual users, maybe they are just using for recreation, or maybe they are using for like coming up with some results or for performing better in a better way. You can find research with women who are diagnosed with substance use. So the other rationale why we are here, we are discussing this is that if you look into, you will find very few women with substance use reporting to us, either in hospital, centers, rehabs, or rest of the places. The reason is there is lots of stigma related to them. So there is a lot of history that we are looking into these women, but unfortunately, they used to approach us, but they return back just because of the stigma that we can't stay here indoor, we can't go for residential, we can't go for detoxification. And there are certain complications also that these doctors are also don't have chance or don't get a chance to admit them or rest of. So they also lack social support, unfortunately, because they have children, they have rest of other issues. A girl cannot be in a place where there isn't any guardian, although there are hospital staff, nurses and the doctors and the psychologists are available. But again, where is this girl or a woman outside from home for this longer period of time in rehabs and etc.? It's again a challenging way. So more alarming is there isn't any facility, especially for the women rehabs or for the treatment of such females. They don't have this evidence-based comprehensive treatment, which is again a questionable. And because of that, these women are unable to report in our society or in our community, and they don't approach us. So the study grounds on some theoretical models. So biopsychosocial model is there, which says that there are some of the biological reasons behind why this woman starts with drug. There are psychological problems or emotional distress or psychological distress, which actually leads to start up with the drug. Or there may be social networking or poor social support or social aspects which are actually contributing in starting with the drug. So the second theory grounds for this study is social learning theory. You will find from the results also, these women are more like at a chance of learning their behavior from the rest of people living in the house. You will find how much this percentage is there. So feminist theory is also there that talks about power dynamic. And these women are more at the greater vulnerability of violence and the rest of. So the objectives are we have to identify the socio-demographics related to women with SUD and to find out which is most commonly used drug among them. Then we will explore some of the trends of drug use, their families. We will also investigate why these women are at greater chance of coming up with the SUD. So it's a retrospective study, and the data between April 2017 to August 2024 was taken from Anti-Narcotics Force Hospital, that is Model Addiction Treatment and a Rehab Center. We have analyzed 218 women's record, and we came to know the picture and the prevalence or the trend of the drug use. So these cases are only with SUD, not other psychiatric problem. So hard drugs, not soft drugs. So ethical consideration is we have taken permission from institutional research board, and definitely we went for informed consent, confidentiality, and the rest of. So these are some of the findings. You may find most of the women who approach to hospital are between 20 to 30 years. It means that is very alarming, right? So if you talk about their educational level, you may find approximately 39% of the women are uneducated. Then you may find 62% of women were married out of this 218 women. So most of them were housewives and unemployed. And the greater percentage that drug used by these women is synthetics. They are actually painkillers, known as Avil, Kings, Sosigon, Pentazone, and the rest of. They are injectables actually, they are painkillers. So the second is heroin, which is again a painkiller, opioid. And the third is ice and crystal, that is meth. If you count them, then you will find more than 35% of meth has been used by these women. So the administration route of these drugs is injecting mode. They used to inject these drugs because they are using synthetics. So most of them, 75% of them were using this drug for 1 to 5 times a day. And most of the cases, around 68% of the women reported that they were using this drug from last 1 to 5 years. Similarly, if you talk about the reason, you may find the reason that this is the influence of their family and their friends, that 37% of the women started their drugs because of this influence from their family and their friends, and around 17% of the women were using drugs because of marital issues, and again, 16% of women were using drugs because of pain. So if you talk about family history of drug use, you may find around 31% of the women's husbands were using the drug. That means these women are actually influenced by their partners, and maybe they are actually taken this drug from the influence of their partner. So some of the implications, definitely, we don't have, this is my last, okay. We don't have these facilities. This is the talk for, or there should be a forum for, there should be such kind of facilities which actually helps these women to come up with some evidence-based comprehensive treatment based on international WHO guidelines, which is very sensitive with regarding to their gender and the rest of things. So the other thing is we should go for harm reduction strategies. That means that most of these women are using these drugs, where injecting, like they are ID user, injecting drug user. Therefore, it's a need for going with harm reduction techniques or strategies. Then you can see 20 to 30 years of the women are more like using drugs. So it's again alarming. This is the age where they go with their studies, with their career, maybe starting with their families and the rest of. So we have to go with some interventions, such as outreach and some treatment efforts. So similarly, we have to go with some addressing some social issues, because we find most of the females get influenced by their families and their friends. So that is the major reason. Pain can be the reason, or the marital issues can be the reason, or are the reason. So we should address all of these while they are under treatment, or for the preventive measure, we should consider such kind of issues while preventing this drug use or issues. So lastly, we should go for resolution of marital issues. We should work on their mental health. We should have trained staff professionals that are belonging to substance use treatment professionals. Especially WISE is a curriculum, but it is specific to women. There are 6 curriculums. Our people should be trained in that. So the needs should be tailored in a proper way. And that is, again, the major thing is these policymakers should come forth, and the policy should be made for these women. They should have easy access We should reduce the stigma. We should have lots of facilities that these women can access to us. We must become up with some holistic treatment opportunities that their children or their economy or their family issues can be handled by the institutions in terms of supporting them and the rest of. And at the end, social support is very important from your side, from our side, from policymakers, from researchers, from treatment providers, from everyone, so this support can help them to reach us and help them on timely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Noreen. Your research is a critical contribution to understanding the drug use patterns among adolescents. So up next, we're shifting focus to the dynamics of marital relationship, and we have Dr. Rabia Mushtaq from the Institute of Clinical Psychology, University of Karachi, who will be presenting her research on the predictive association between perceived social support and marital satisfaction in married couples in Pakistan.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, ma'am.
Ji. Should I start now?
Yes, ma'am. You can start now.
Okay. So the topic of my presentation is predictive association between perceived social support and marital satisfaction in married couples with infertility in Pakistan. There is a little correction in title. This is related to those couples who are facing infertility issues. Infertility is basically considered as a global issue and has a profound impact on married couples, affecting various aspects of their relationships, emotional well-being, and quality of life. WHO defines infertility as the failure to conceive after a year or 12 months or more of unprotected sexual activities or intercourse between the partners. WHO estimates that 10 to 15% of couples globally experience infertility, with rates varying across regions, among which developing countries face a higher incidence of infertility due to limited knowledge about its causes and available treatments. In Pakistan, for instance, the prevalence of infertility stands at 22%, with primary infertility affecting 4% of those affected. Due to infertility, both partners may grapple with the feelings of sadness, grief, anger, frustration, guilt, and even shame. There may be a sense of inadequacy or loss, particularly if they had envisioned having biological children but failed to do so. Couples having infertility may feel isolated or misunderstood, particularly without a supportive network. They face social criticism and discrimination due to not having children that lead to the elevated distress and mental health issues in this population. Literature also revealed that those couples who have higher social support experience higher level of relationship satisfaction. And here comes the objective of the study that was designed to examine the predictive association between perceived social support and marital satisfaction among married couples with infertility. The hypothesis is perceived social support would be a significant predictor of marital satisfaction in married couples with infertility. Correlation research design was used, and the purposive sampling technique was used to select the data sample. 50 married couples selected from the gynecology department of various hospitals and infertility clinics in Karachi, Pakistan, and the age range of the participant was between 20 to 40 years, with mean age of 32 years. Here is the inclusion and exclusion criteria. We took only cases, those diagnosed with primary infertility and did not initiated IVF treatment. Their age was between 20 to 40 years, and minimum education level was grade 10, that is metric, so they can understand the questions before rating them. They were the couples who were living together and who gave consent for the participation, and only Pakistani nationals were the part of this particular study. We used, initially we conducted brief interviews through semi-structured interview forms, and Urdu versions of perceived, multi-dimensional scale of perceived social support and enriched marital satisfaction scale were utilized as research tools. Regarding ethical consideration, the study was approved by the Ethical Review Board of Institute of Clinical Psychology, University of Karachi first, and then standardized tools were used with the consent of authors, and the consent of voluntarily participation from each participant was taken through informed consent form, and the confidentiality and anonymity was mentioned on the form and verbally discussed as well. They were assured of no harm of physical or psychological nature, and participants was given the right to withdraw at any stage of the study. Most importantly, individual counseling was provided for those who were in distress during filling the form or due to their issues of infertility. These are the result findings. Findings shows that findings reveals the significant predictive association between perceived social support and marital satisfaction, which significantly impacts individuals coping with fertility difficulties. If we talk about the implications, Dr. Noreen has already discussed important points, although it was related to substance use, but we also conclude that these findings will help offering compassionate and efficient care, helping in devising customized intervention and support programs for the couple grappling with fertility issues, and offering guidance to hospitals and infertility clinics in formulating pertinent policies and support initiatives for this particular population. These are the few references used in this study, and thank you so much. If you have any questions, you can ask us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rabia. Your research offers important insights into the dynamics of marital satisfaction, and we truly appreciate your efforts. Up next, we have Kainat Kimani and Dr. Khalda Rao from SZABIST University, who will be presenting their paper titled Exploring the Psychological Impact of Unemployment and Coping Strategies in Males and Females in Karachi.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Kainat and I've done my master's in social sciences from the SZABIST University, and now I'm going to present a topic. Wait guys, wait. Okay. We have to wait 2 minutes. Yeah, it's my topic, exploring the psychological impact of unemployment and coping strategies in males and females of Karachi, under the supervision of Dr. Khalda Rao. Thank you. So, my problem statement is exploring the psychological impact of unemployment, which often leads to distress, worry, and lower the well-being. This study investigates how these feelings differ between men and females. Okay, thank you. Sorry. The study investigates how these feelings differ between men and women. We will examine the gender differences as well. Men and women face unique psychological differences, challenges based on societal expectations and personal coping strategies, because men and women have both have psychological distress and worry, anxiety, but दोनों के पास different coping strategies होती है. We will discuss in our results how men cope up with their psychological distress and how women cope up with their psychological distress. Considering the other factors, age, societal, socioeconomic status, and education, to understand more about their distress and how they cope up. Our research question is, how does the experience of psychological impact of unemployment differ between males and females? How do coping strategies contribute to alleviating the psychological consequences of unemployment? And do the variables, psychological distress and coping strategies relate with each other? Our goal is to, by identifying gender-specific psychological difficulties, this study will help to develop targeted strategies and support system to feel unemployed individuals to cope up better. Okay, what is the purpose of my research? This study aims to uncover gender-specific factors influencing psychological outcomes, the distress, anxiety, and how we will cope up with it. What is the rationale of our research? There are several strong rationales. Number one is gender differences. How different genders, like how men cope up with their psychological distress and how women cope up with their psychological distress. Support system, this research in this area can help improve support systems. For example, including mental health awarenesses, we can conduct sessions, how career counseling, through career counseling people also cope up with their strategies. Organization policies, understanding into how unemployment influences gender-specific psychological health can influence workplace policies. Workers can use this data to develop programs that help employees comfort their job loss. I have three hypotheses. There is a significant difference between effectiveness of coping strategies in genders. There is a significant difference in psychological distress of both the genders, males and females. And there is an inverse relationship between coping strategies and psychological distress between males and females. So I have two variables, psychological distress and coping strategies. Research methodology. Okay, so this study takes a quantitative research approach because I need my data in a numerical form. Research design, it is a comparative research design. It is a comparative research design, and the purpose of sampling technique is used. My sample size is 176 participants because I use G-Power software through how much data I needed for my results, and 88 were males and 88 were females. Inclusive and exclusive criteria. Participants must be currently unemployed or have experienced unemployed within the past 6 months. Their age range should be from 18 to 45 because 45 के बाद retirement वाला time आ जाता है, and 18 under 18 we can't do jobs, right? Those who are willing to provide informed consents. Exclusive criteria, lack of informed consents. Participants who are willing to participate must have informed consents. Prior participations, their age less than 80 and more than 45 must be excluded. Those who are engaged in other types of jobs like freelancing or other, it would not include. Majors, I have two variables, so I have two majors. Coping skills use किया था हमने for the coping strategies, and Kessler psychological distress scale for psychological distress. Okay. Data analysis. Okay. Ethical considerations, informed consents. Informed consent use किया था, confidentiality, anonymity of data, right to withdraw. So these are my results. So I have 4 variables. Gender, हमने males and females को देखना था. Married single or married people, length of employment, more than 6 months or less than 6 months. Age, my age criteria था 18 to 25, 26 to 33, and 34 to 45. So these are the frequencies. Descriptive alpha coefficient of all the variables, KPD's Kessler psychological distress. कि हमारे पास 10 number item 10 थे and coping strategies के 13 थे. So this is the median, standard deviation, alpha range, skewness and kurtosis. ये हमारे पास SPSS के through हमारा data आया है. We have seen correlation among variables. So it is negative correlation among coping strategies in Kessler psychological distress scale. Independent sample data से मैं use किया था because I have to see the gender differences. हमारा एक variable gender भी था. Okay, so we have less time. इंडिपेंडेंट सैम्पल टी टेस्ट हमें एम्प्लॉयमेंट हमारा एक और वेरिएबल था कि लेस देन 6 months था या मोर देन 6 months था, हमने वो इसमें देखा था देयर इज नो सच रिलेशनशिप आया था बिकॉज यू कैन सी कि हमारा मीन हमारे दोनों वेरिएबल्स में लाइक इतना सिमिलर है, इतना कोई डिफरेंस नहीं है. वन वे अनोमा हमने देखा था बिकॉज ऑफ हमारा एज एंड बेस्ड ऑन एजुकेशन के मैट्रिक इंटरमीडिएट डॉक्टरल. So conclusion हमारा ये था, हमारा conclusion ये आया था women experience higher psychological distress and use more emotion focused coping strategies and men tend to prefer more problem focused coping strategies. Shorter unemployment is linked to higher distress but fewer coping strategies, and the longer unemployment encourage more adaptive coping behaviors. Individuals show resilience through skill building, pursuing opportunities and adaptive coping. We have limitations. The study may not apply widely because हमें numerical form में हमारा data था. अगर हमारा qualitative में होता तो we have more diverse हमारा कुछ results आते हैं. It doesn't fully capture how different people respond to stress and job loss and cultural effects भी हमारे यहाँ पे missing थे. Long-term data. We can also use striking changes in coping over time. Implications are stakeholder including lawmaker, mental health professionals and community organization must design and implement tailored support for the unemployed people, recognize the different coping styles for men and women. Men often seek solutions independently. ये हमारी research में था. Women tend to rely more on social networks and emotional support. Understanding these gender differences can improve the design of support programs, making them more effective. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kainat, for shedding light on this critical socio-economic issue affecting so many individuals in our society. Up next, we have Bushra Iqbal from MAT RCANF Sindh, who will present her research on trends of drug use among male adolescents with substance use disorders.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is me Bushra Iqbal, a graduate in psychology from Federal Urdu University, and I am currently working with Anti-Narcotic Force as an assistant psychologist. Okay. In MATRC, which is Modern Addiction Treatment and Rehab Center Hospital. Today I am here to present my research topic that is both timely and critical: the trends of drug use among male adolescents diagnosed with substance use disorder. Through this research, I hope to seek a meaningful discussion and guide future intervention that can be better for future interventions and treatment strategies. Okay, now looking forward to the introduction of the research. The prevalence of substance use disorder among the male adolescents are growing global concern with the devastating consequences for individuals, community, and families. In Pakistan, as we all know, the prevalence of drugs is particularly high, especially among young males. This study highlights the main issues and characteristics of drug use among the male adolescents in Karachi and provide a valuable insights for developing an effective prevention. As we all know, adolescence is considered as one of the vulnerable group. So this research focus on the social demographic variables, and this research and this study is based on two theories of social substance use disorder, which is social cognitive theory and social ecological model. This study draws upon the establishment of the theories of substance use disorder, including the social cognitive theory, which is emphasize the role of social influence, individual beliefs, and behavior factor in shaping drug use pattern. Social ecological theories, which recognize how the interconnectedness of individual and interpersonal organization and community and policy levels influence on SUD behavior. So the primary objective of this research is to discover the educational attainment of male adolescents with substance use disorder and to know about the common use of drugs. Also, we find out the employment status of male adolescents to discover the influence of fun and pleasure in substance use disorder. So this study was a retrospective design. Data was analysis on SPSS 28. Data was collected from MATRC Hospital, 365 male adolescents between the age of 9 to 19. Okay, so the data was retrieved from patient record, including the information on age, education, occupation, reason of drug use, initiation of drug use, and pattern of drug use and mode of drug use. Okay. This study utilized a convenience sampling technique which all the participants were recruited from MATRC Hospital. The inclusive criteria of this research was the young male adolescents between the age of 9 to 19, and the exclusive criteria of this research is lack of informed consent, also the history of severe mental health illness, and adolescents with not more than the age of 19 or below the age of 5. So here are the findings of our research. As you all can see, between the age of 15 to 19, 300 plus people use drugs. Also 84% people use drugs between the age of 15 to 19. Also, we find that the reason of the drug is mostly the fun and pleasure. The most use of drug is cannabis, ice and crystal. There is not as such the family history of the male adolescents who use the drugs. 287%, 287 people, the family history doesn't use drug. Okay, this is a study followed the ethical consideration involving the informed consent and confidentiality was also maintained, and this research was approved by Institutional Review Board, IRB of MATRC. So this data reveals that most of the young adolescents come with limited education, high unemployment, or the most prevalent drug use is ice and cannabis, and early initiation of drugs. मोस्टली जो लोग हमारे पास आते हैं उनका जो एडोलेसेंस के अंदर जो उनकी एज होती है वो स्टार्टिंग मतलब 14 से 9 to 14 जो है वो कैनबिस और आइस के साथ जो है वो आ रहे होते हैं हमारे पास, ठीक है. इसके अलावा दिस इज स्टडी फाइंड बेसिकली हमारा इस स्टडी का पर्पस ये था ताकि हम एक अर्जेंट जो है वो इंटरवेंशन को देख सके और सीख कर सके कि हम किस तरह से इसकी प्रेवलेंस को कम कर सकते हैं एडोलेसेंस के अंदर. तो इस स्टडी से हमें पता चला है कि हमारे पास बहुत सारे ऐसे प्रिवेंशन प्रोग्राम, स्कूल बेस्ड प्रोग्राम और कम्युनिटी बेस्ड और पॉलिसी मेकर्स होने चाहिए जो कि हमारी इस स्टडी के ऊपर को क्या कहते हैं वो उनको एक फ्रेमवर्क प्रोवाइड करती है ताकि हम आगे फ्यूचर में अगर उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करेंगे तो हमारी जो प्रिवलेंस रेशियो है ड्रग्स का वो कम हो सकता है. Okay, to conclude this, the implication of this study, we need to urgent need for targeted intervention and support service to address the alarming trends of drug use among the male adolescents with SUD in Karachi, and the study extends to various stakeholders including policymakers, healthcare professionals and educators and community organizations. सबसे पहले तो जैसे कि एजुकेशनल प्रोग्राम अगर हम स्कूल्स लेवल पे देखा जाए तो अगर हम प्रिवेंशन और अवेयरनेस प्रोग्राम को इस्तेमाल करेंगे, हर इंसान को मतलब एडोलेसेंट्स को बताएंगे कि किस तरीके से हम जो है वो रिस्क फैक्टर्स को बताएं कि क्या क्या ड्रग यूज़ करने की वजह से इसके रिस्क फैक्टर्स हो सकते हैं. तो दिस इज़ द वन ऑफ द गुड इंटरवेंशन के प्रिवेलेंस का रेशियो जो है वो कम हो सकता है. दैट्स ऑल फ्रॉम माई साइड. थैंक यू सो मच.
Thank you. Your work sheds light on the pressing issue affecting the youth in our society. Up next, we have Ms. Noreen Jaffrey from Bahia University, who will be sharing her study, The Impact of Emotional Regulation on Work Stress in Males of Pakistani Society, Moderating Role of Coping Strategies.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Noreen is here from IPPBOKC. Have a good day. So waiting for my slide, today is the topic of my research article is the impact of emotional regulation on workplace and the moderating role of coping strategies. We all know that mental health is an essential part for well-being, but still it seems like a stigma because especially for men. Traditionally, we do perceive that the men are more emotionally composed and more emotionally strong without considering the increasing factors of stress. So our research is basically on the male who are working in the different professional organizations of Karachi, Pakistan, and we are going to develop the relationship between the emotional regulation and work stress, and simultaneously we try to find the moderating role of coping strategies among the population. Just wait for 2 minutes. As a result of the current economic situation, inflations, and the political unrest in Pakistan, business credit ratings are being downgraded, particularly in the wake of the COVID-19 and the results. Unemployment is rising and the business are facing the financial difficulties. So we keep 3 variables in our research. Number 1 was the emotional regulation, the second was the work stress, and the third was the coping strategies. Okay. I have to move toward the next slide. It's not working. Slides are not moving. Okay. So we have 3 variables here: emotional regulation, the process through which the people control the emotions they feel; coping strategies define the coping is action regulation under the stress and how people mobilize. Work stress is a psychological response toward the perceived expectations and the pressures at workplace. The rationale of this study that researches on emotional regulation and coping work stress have been done, several you can find, but you can find individually or either with 2 variables. This was the research where we try to collect 3 variables together. Theoretical framework, so we use emotional regulation process model. We use the Lazarus work stress model and Lazarus coping strategy theory to develop the link between the 3 variables. And we keep some component of emotional regulation, which were the cognitive reappraisals and expressive suppression. We also keep some other components of the coping strategies, which were the emotion-focused coping, problem-focused coping, and avoidant coping. In the light of literature review, we postulated few hypotheses that there will be a significant relationship in emotional regulation and work stress. And the second hypothesis that coping strategies will play a significant moderating role in the relationship of emotional regulation and work stress. So as far as the method is concerned, so it was a quantitative correlational research designs, and we used the scientific calculator to fix the sample size to increase the effect of our research. And the participants were 299 from the different professional organizations, and their ages were ranges from 25 to 55. We keep some inclusion-exclusion criteria to control the variables. Males' ages we control, which was between 25 to 50. We keep the education level because we need minimum intermediate qualification to comprehend the statements of our questions. We also try to keep that working people should be at the same place for the 2 years because to control the job switching pattern. So material which we use, first of all, we use informed consent form from the participants and the demographic, and the 3 other measures which we use were the emotional regulation questionnaire, brief cope, and the workplace stress scales. So let's have a look on results. Table 1 is basically showing the Cronbach alpha of all SZABIST scales, which are all in acceptable range, and further the skews and kurtosis are also showing that our data is adequate and normally distributed. So table 2 was showing that there was a negative correlation between the expressive suppression and age, and there was a positive correlation between the problem focus, coping, and age. Table 3 was also showing that there are the almost significant, relationship among the variables and sub-variables. Few variables on which you can see a single stars are significant at p-value of 0.05, and few values which you can see with the 2 stars are significant at 0.01 level. So table 4A and 4B both are showing the predictors, because the cognitive reappraisal and expressive suppression as a significant predictor of avoidant coping, and table 4B is also showing that emotion focused coping and avoidant coping and expressive suppressions are the significant predictor of work stress. We also try to find the moderating role. Table 5A and 5B is giving us the moderation of the different variable, and the significant finding is the cognitive reappraisal, which is a part of the emotional regulation. Problem focus strategy, which is a part of the coping strategy, work together to moderate in the relationship between the emotional regulation and work stress. As far as the implication are concerned, so it might be helpful for the organizations, for the psychologists who are dealing with the work stress, or especially it may help toward employees that it's very important to develop the coping strategies to cope with the work stress, and it also gives us a direction that how much stress management workshops are essential for our employees, especially in male, because even the male percentage is higher in a stress level. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Noreen. Your research on emotional regulation and work stress is both timely and relevant, and we thank you for your insight and contribution. Up next, we have Harsha Rathore from SZABIST University, who will be discussing her paper, The Impact of Media Portrayals on the Stigmatization of Individuals with PMDD and PSM.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Harsha Rathore, and this was my thesis research paper, The Impact of Media Portrayals on the Stigmatization of Individuals with Premenstrual Dysphoric and Premenstrual Syndrome. Okay. Oh, this. Can you guys hear me now? Yeah, okay. So a little bit of introduction. PMDD is differentiated not only by the physical signs related to a menstrual cycle. So we all understand what PMS is, right? We all, like most of us are women sitting here, so I think we all understand what PMS is. But basically PMDD is more of a mental condition, and it is also classified as a depressive disorder in the DSM-5. And it was not particularly specified in all the previous former DSMs, like DSM-4, but even despite being recognized in the DSM-5, like जो हमारा mental manual होता है, उसके बावजूद भी people don't approve it as a mental condition. And there are no specific reasons why this happened, but it does happen. So rationale of the study, so there are basically false perceptions around PMS and PMDD. These perceptions about the illness which can have a detrimental effect on those who suffer from PMDD and PMS and people who facilitate them. So basically our study focused on the advertisement. Like एक sanitary napkin की जो advertisement होती है उसमें किस तरह से एक औरत के symptoms दिखाए जाते हैं. So we were studying on that. Our problem statement was that the media portrayal often lacks awareness. So nobody is showing any symptom कि irritation हो रही है, irritability हो रही है, but they just show a woman who wears this certain brand and then she's just jumping around. And we don't want that. We want them to see, we want them to show the actual, even like we understand that our blood nahi dikha sakte because a lot of people get triggered by it, but at least show some symptoms. They don't show cramps, they don't show any sort of, irritability, frustration, but just a woman is just, wearing a certain brand and then that's the whole reason that this mental condition is often misinterpreted. And that a lot of women feel like this burden or pressure कि maybe the women that they show in ads हमें उनकी तरह act करना है. So our inclusion criteria was ensuring that all participants were willing. We took informed consent. We told all our participants that what this study is about. And we took like physical consent as well with signatures and all, and we did not limit our study like in a age bracket. Like we tried to include all, even 14-year-olds were included, 25-year-old were included. So yeah. So research methodology, it was basically a qualitative research which focused on examining the subjective perceptions and experiences and feelings of individuals in relation to PMS and PMDD and how it has been portrayed. So we took like subjective and we took like subjective perception, how they perceive a particular advertisement. If we show an ad, we showed an ad to a participant, how did they perceive? And that was about it, like what were. And the second thing was the analysis. Like we identified there were some trends and patterns going on in these ads. So the sample population comprised of 12 individuals from various demographic groups who engage in advertisement, which pertains to lifestyle, wellness, or health, or in general who watch TV or YouTube. So sampling design had two levels. There was purposeful sampling, which was that like we intentionally took participants based on the relevance to the study, and the second was snowball sampling to identify additional participant by asking these initial questions like, have you seen an ad, or what do you think about it? So these were the demographics, these were the age bracket, and this was the marital and educational status. So we found like around 6 themes in this. So number one theme that commonly occurred in these interviews was censored viewership, that जब भी कोई ad आता था हमारे घर के बड़े channels change कर देते थे. So they never really got to question it कि ये हो क्या रहा है, चल क्या रहा है. Second was the isolation from the opposite gender. Again, like even when I was interviewing the participants, male population was not comfortable with it, so I had to like exclude them overall. Second was lack of authenticity. Again, a lot of participants were complaining that कोई भी symptom like frustration दिखा दे, cramps दिखा दे, कुछ भी दिखा दे, cravings तक दिखा दे, but there was like जो भी ad जो चलता है उसमें they did not show any sort of authenticity. Second was personal narratives, and hushed conversation, like people were never allowed to talk about it for some reason. And अगर कोई छोटा भी आके सवाल करता था तो उसे चुप कर देते थे कि don't ask these questions, or your brother is sitting, or your father is sitting, change the channel. Very interesting theme that I found was the doctor-patient dynamic, and we need to understand that period-related काफ़ी सारी ऐसे आते हैं हमारे पास मसले मसाइल. So there's PCOS, PCODs. So what I found interesting in this theme was that a lot of people complained that अगर हम एक private hospital में जाते हैं, we are taken care of, हमारा डॉक्टर बात सुनता भी है, but यही complaints लेकर अगर हम एक government hospital में जाते हैं, हमें disregard कर दिया जाता है. And lastly, it was hope for change. So they're like कि we still look forward कि हमें मीडिया में वो representation मिले जो हम चाहते हैं. So that was all about the research findings. The implications were the culture of secrecy. Like a lot of women were reluctant to speak their experiences, and like I said, a lot of, like, I really wanted to include the male audience as well, but again they were really uncomfortable with the topic itself. So moving forward to recommendations, so our media advertisements should strive to portray menstruation more honestly. Like, we all understand that blood can be triggering, but please show some experience, some symptoms, rather than just idealizing a diluted version of menstruation. So that was all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Herschel. Your research really highlights the influence of media on societal attitudes, and we appreciate your thorough investigation. Up next, we have from the University of Karachi, Asma Latif, who will be presenting online, and her research focuses on the social and cultural attitudes towards appearance. While we're trying to connect with Ms. Asma, I would like to call Ms. Sania Zara Naqvi from Bahri University to present her research on knowledge, attitudes, and beliefs towards peripartum and postpartum depression amongst nurses in Karachi.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. So on behalf of Bahia University, my study is on knowledge, attitudes, and the beliefs of nurses towards perinatal and postpartum depression. The slides go.
Slides.
Okay. So first of all, I'm going to briefly go over everything because the results of the study are actually what are very important and really matter. So first of all, the objective of the study was to evaluate the knowledge, attitudes, and beliefs of nurses regarding perinatal and postpartum depression. All the nurses were actually nurses who had worked or who were working presently in the gynecology wards of public and private hospitals of Karachi. Now, in total, we studied 30 nurses and their participation, and based on that data, we were able to take out our results. The results and the study itself is a qualitative study using a feminological, it's a cross-sectional feminological exploratory study And from that, we were able to glean our results. More on that later, but let's first talk about why we chose to do this study. We chose to study mental health because mental health is the primary cause of illness in the world at the moment, and maternal mental health is one of the biggest causes of it. In fact, maternal mental health disorders, including perinatal and postpartum depression, are a growing public health issue. Approximately 18% of women globally experience perinatal and postpartum depression, which is perinatal or antenatal or during pregnancy depression are all the same terms for that period. Perinatal and prenatal are all that, and postpartum is after gestation, after the baby is born. So approximately both of these issues combined create 18% of are experienced by 18% of women globally. And as we all know, as being from this field, that these issues can contribute to psychological issues such as anxiety and sadness and post-traumatic stress disorder in the mother. Postpartum depression in itself, that is after the baby, contributes to 12.5% hospitalizations of women related to psychological issues. And the issue does not only extend to the mother, but it also extends to the child and the husband as well. In antenatal or perinatal or during pregnancy depression, we have seen that there are physical impacts on the child, such as low birth weight, such as malnutrition, febrile infections during delivery, amongst other things. And also cognition related or neurodevelopmental, there is a correlation that children whose mothers have experienced or were experiencing depression during pregnancy, their child when it is born might have some structural disorders anatomically in the brain, as well as have an impact on their level of cognition. Now this is perinatal. Apart from that, postpartum again contributes to a lot of interfamily conflict, a lot of cognition development and pedagogy that is affected by the strife created at home because of that. In Pakistan, the prevalence of perinatal and postpartum depression is actually the highest in Asia. But 50% of our cases remain undetected. This is as per research in 2023. Now, why do we have such a problem in detecting perinatal and postpartum depression? The issue lies in the fact that, first of all, there are organizational issues. That within the hospitals, there are issues that people are not, or the healthcare professionals are not able to refer adequately or are not able to screen properly. And apart from that, healthcare students and professionals in Pakistan, it was also noted from the STEAM study in 2018, hold negative attitudes towards mental illness influenced by their personal beliefs and prejudices. We have seen the same outcome in HIV patients as well, and how they are handled by healthcare professionals. So what are attitudes and beliefs? Attitudes are pre-existing personal emotions that are shaped through experience through knowledge or experience based from our upbringing and our environment, and they impact our behavior, thoughts and emotions towards objects and concepts. Now beliefs, whatever we have, are firm convictions that can persevere despite the fact of being presented with oppositional knowledge. So someone can still believe in whatever they've been brought up with, even if they are given knowledge that it is otherwise. So belief perseverance and belief perpetuation can lead to stigma. And stigma of this kind was seen in healthcare workers in our study and in other previous studies. Now, what was the significance and rationale? Why nurses? So again, because nurses and healthcare professionals have been seen to perpetuate stigma, but also nurses in gynecology worldwide have been seen to play a big role in perinatal and postpartum depression. Nurses can help in screening, can help in diagnosing, can help in assessment and providing support to families and patients of women suffering from perinatal and postpartum, and women who have given birth, and help them realize that they have perinatal or postpartum depression. In fact, the American College of Midwives stated in 2002 that women registered nurses should in fact be taught how to do so. So this is why the significance in this rationale of the study, why we focused on nurses. Now, our conceptual framework was focused on the vicarious learning model of Bandura, Albert Bandura, that we learned through our experiences. I'm going to quickly go towards the research design. So our research design was a cross-sectional qualitative phenomenological research. It was a CAP study, a knowledge attitude-based study that can be done quantitatively and qualitatively. Because of the gap in qualitative nature of such data, I chose to do it qualitatively. The participants were 30 nurses.
20 from private hospitals, 20 from public hospitals and 10 from private hospitals. We took 5 hospitals, of which 3 were public and the rest were private hospitals. And what we did is that we interviewed nurses in all shifts, just to make sure of the fact that in the morning shift we don't have the experienced nurses only, in the afternoon shift we don't have the lazy ones. We are getting experience and data from all kinds of nurses. And these nurses were actually nurses who were only working in gynecology. Our inclusion criteria included that the nurses should have completed their minimum requirement of a BSCN in nursing. They should be registered nurses, or they should be BSCN in midwifery with a diploma in registered midwives. Apart from that, we chose to take male and female nurses both, but unfortunately of all our 30 nurses, all were female, so none of them were male. Although there is no barrier in Pakistan to having male nurses in gynecology. Apart from that, our nurses had to be well versed in English and Urdu. We did not take nurses from any other departments to give their input, only gynecology nurses who had been placed in gynecology. The minimum work experience of all our nurses was above 3 months. So our average time or experience was 7 years. The minimum age was from 25 to 50. The nurse with the highest years of experience was 12 years of experience. She was the head nurse. Our measures were an informed consent form, of course, then the demographic information form and an interview guide. Now, CAP studies are usually based on interview guides. We chose a structured interview guide that was helped and created by a domain expert who was an experienced head nurse and clinical instructor of midwifery. So she helped us formulate this interview guide. Now coming to our results, which are very, very impressive and important. So we managed to come out with 5 themes based on 16 sub-themes. Our 5 themes were limited or vague knowledge, reaction to patient symptoms, workload, poor patient management, and inadequate communication, of which the sub-themes for limited or vague knowledge was lack of awareness, education gap, training program, resistance towards mental health issues. Reaction to patient symptoms, the sub-themes were negative attitudes towards women, stigma towards female psychopathology, prejudice towards mental health disorders, social culture and religious beliefs positive, social culture and religious beliefs negative, workload including insufficient staff, limited time, and poor patient management, the sub-themes were negative attitudes towards mental health, low level of knowledge, no screening tools, no mandatory protocols, inadequate communication, the sub-theme was lapse in patient referrals. Now we have arranged the sub-themes according to the number of court counts. If you look at the figures, you will see that the highest number of court count was for limited or vague knowledge, our main theme, and the court count for lack of awareness was 49 and case count was 30. That means that the 30 participants, all 30 mentioned that they had very little to no awareness about perinatal and postpartum, and they referred to this particular sentence or this particular aspect of the code that we do not know 49 times. So that was the highest ranking highest ranking theme, limited or vague knowledge, and our second highest ranking theme was reaction to patient symptoms. Now let us look at how we came to these sub-themes and themes. This is a very interesting process for which we worked through the guide and studied the guide of how to do thematic qualitative analysis first. And after studying that guide repeatedly, what we did is we reviewed the data set 4 times. Every single time we read through the data, raw data once, then we coded it, then we went back to the participant. So each participant was interviewed 4 hours each in 4 separate sessions. So we have done over 90 hours of interviews in every shift to produce this data. Now how did we come about these themes and sub-themes? What we did is we took the raw data and then we coded it as per statements. For instance, for the sub-theme lack of awareness, we have the code surprise. The surprise element was taken based on the statement. Now the statements or the interview, the raw data that we got was such that people, majority of the code count, this was 13, said that, I will now speak in Urdu for the purpose of what they said. They said कि ये depression औरतों का भी होता है, depression तो depression होता है, ये भी कोई चीज़ होती है, ये तो हमारे लिए बिल्कुल ही नई बात है, मुझे तो लगता था सारा डिप्रेशन एक जैसा है. तो ये सबसे पहला था सरप्राइज. फिर दूसरी चीज़ थी अनफेमिलियरिटी. ये भी कोड था हमारा, उसमें था कि ये पेरिनेटल डिप्रेशन क्या होता है, मुझे तो पता ही नहीं, मुझे ये भी नहीं पता पोस्टपार्टम क्या होता है, मैंने तो डिप्रेसिव इलनेस का कभी सुना ही नहीं जो जचकी के बाद होती है. एंड दीज आर ऑल गायनेकोलॉजी नर्सेज. तो इसलिए हमने फिर इन कोड्स को
جو سملر ساؤنڈنگ کوڈس تھے ان کو پھر سب تھیمز میں بنایا اور سب تھیمز سے پھر ہم مین تھیمز کی طرف گئے. نا یہ تو ہمارا سب سے بڑا پہلی تھیم ہی یہی تھی, مین تھیم ہی ہماری لیک آف نالج تھی. لیکن اس کے علاوہ جو ہماری تھوڑی ریٹلنگ یا شیکنگ انفارمیشن نکل کے آئی جس نے سب کو بہت پریشان کیا پڑھنے کے اوپر, وہ تھی ہماری سیکنڈ کوڈ. مین جو ہمارا کوڈ ہے وہ ہے ریئیکشن ٹو پیشنٹ سمٹمس, جس میں کوڈ کاؤنٹ 47 ہے اور سارے کے سارے کیس کاؤنٹ 13 ہے. women nurses having extremely negative attitudes towards women. تو انہوں نے پھر ایسی باتیں بولی جو کہ ہمیں تھوڑا پریشان انہوں نے کیا, جو ہمارے کوڈ سے نکل کے آئیں. ججمنٹ سب سے پہلا کوڈ تھا جو کہ کوڈ کاؤنٹ اس کی 11 تھی. انہوں نے بولا کہ یہ عورتیں جو ہمارے پاس اب آتی ہیں نا, ان کو نہ کھانا پکانا آتا ہے, نہ کھانا بنانا آتا ہے, نہ گھر سنبھالنا آتا ہے. وہ بہت ہی جو ہے بیکار ہے, گھر بنانے والی نہیں ہے, ان کو صرف فیشن کرنا آتا ہے, ٹک ٹاک آتا ہے, اس لیے تو وہ بچہ پیدا کرتے وقت سفر کریں گی جب کچھ آتا ہی نہیں ہے. تو یہ ان کی سوچ تھی. پھر ٹریڈیشنل بلیف اباؤٹ ویمنز رولس. دس از اے نرس سیئنگ دس. دس از ایکچولی head nurse saying this. She said that اگر یہ میں لڑکیوں کو بولتی ہوں کہ اگر تم میری بیٹی ہوتی میں تمہارے دماغ میں یہ بات ٹھوس دیتی جب سے تم پیدا ہوئی ہوتی کہ عورتوں کو گھر بسانے والی ہونا چاہیے. Then there was a need to scold women who are complaining of symptoms. So they said that I tell them to their face, میں ان کے منہ پہ بول دیتی ہوں کہ اپنے نخرے بند کرو, میں تمہارا شوہر نہیں کہ ساری بکواس برداشت کروں گی جب وہ وارڈ میں رو رہی ہوتی ہے وغیرہ کر رہی ہوتی. This is the perception of women. So generally there was a negative perception of women towards other women. اینڈ کمپیریزن آف ویمن ٹوڈے ورسز ان دا پاسٹ. ہمارے زمانے میں تو عورتیں 7 بچے پیدا کر لیتی تھیں, مسئلے نہیں ہوتے, اب ان کو ہی مسئلے ہو رہے ہوتے ہیں. تو اس کے علاوہ ہمارے پھر دوسری تھیمس میں نکل کے آئیں, جس طرح لو پیشنٹ ٹو اسٹاف ریشو. لاٹ آف جو نرسز نے بولا کہ اب ہم ان کے رونے پیٹنے کو ہی سمجھتے رہے. دیز آر ایکچوئل ورڈز. رونے پیٹنے کو ہی دیکھتے رہے, ہمیں تو مریض بھی دیکھنے ہیں. تو یہ رونا پیٹنے کو اب یہ ہم آپ کہہ رہی ہیں کہ ڈپریشن ہوتا ہے, یہ کیا چیز ہے. تو اب ہم نے دیکھا جب یہ اس طرح کا ایٹیٹیوڈ ہوگا تو پھر ایک بڑی تھیم یہ بھی بنی کہ پیشنٹ مینجمنٹ ان کی بہت پور تھی. ایک تو نیگیٹو ایٹیٹیوڈس تھے ٹورڈ سمٹمس, اینڈ دوسرا پھر پیشنٹ مینجمنٹ آبویسلی اس کی طرف پور ہوگی. تو اس میں کوڈ نکلتا ہے اینگر. اب یہ بھی ریٹلنگ ایک ایلیمنٹ ہے, کیونکہ جب ان کو غصہ آتا تھا کیونکہ ان کو سمجھ نہیں تھی کہ یہ بیماری ہے, اور کیونکہ ان کا جنرلی ایک نیگیٹو ایٹیٹیوڈ تھا ٹورڈز ویمن, تو ان کا یہ ریئیکشنز آتے تھے جو انہوں نے یہ اگین اسٹیٹمنٹ سے انٹروڈیوس کی کہ میرا دل چاہتا ہے کہ اس طرح کی جو عورتیں آئیں ان کو میں تھپڑ مار دوں. اینڈ یہ نرسز ہیں جو بہت زیادہ رو رہی ہوتی ہیں, میں کہتی ہوں کہ یا تو خود بس کر دو یا تو میں آ کر تمہیں چپ کراتی ہوں. اینڈ آ کر چپ کرانا از ناٹ مطلب تھا کہ میں مار کے چپ کراتی ہوں. اریٹیشن بھی ہوتی تھی کہ I pretend that the patients are not even there. میں ایسے کرتی ہوں کہ مریض ہے ہی نہیں جو رو رہی ہے, کیونکہ میں اتنی چڑھ جاتی ہوں ان کی رونے سے اور ان کی باتوں سے. اور فیملیز بھی آ کے سوال پوچھتی رہتی تو میں کہتی ہوں بعد میں آنا ہے, کل آنا. تو ایک کچھ نہیں بولا کہ ہاں تھوڑی سی بے بسی ہوتی کہ سمجھ میں نہیں آ رہا کیوں رو رہی ہے, اور زیادہ تر کی ان اویئرنیس ہوتی ہے. اب جب یہ سائیکائٹری کو بھیجتے ہیں کال تو وہاں پہ یہ دیکھا جاتا ہے کہ زیادہ تر گورنمنٹ ہاسپٹلس میں ایون پرائیویٹ میں کہ ریفرل کا سسٹم پاکستان میں اتنا پور ہے کہ جب مریض کو بھیجا جاتا ہے تو ان کو آورز ویٹ کرنا پڑتا ہے, جس کی وجہ سے مریض پھر نہیں دکھاتا. اب میرا مین کوشچن سب سے پہلے یہ تھا, آلدو دا انٹرویو واز ریئلی ایزی, ہم نے کوئی پہلے سے نالج والی چیز نہیں رکھی تھی, لیکن ہم نے سب سے پہلے ان سے یہ پوچھا تھا کہ آپ کو کیا پتا ہے پیری نیٹل اینڈ پوسٹ پارٹم ڈپریشن کیا ہوتا ہے. اور یہ ساری نرسز ہیں جن کے کورس میں یہ چیز پڑھائی جاتی ہے, تو 57% نے بولا کہ ہم نے یہ ٹرم کبھی نہیں سنا. تو دس واز دا کنکلوژن. اب اس سے ہماری امپلیکیشن اور کنکلوژن یہ نکل کے آیا کہ گورنمنٹ کو اس چیز کے اوپر ورک کرنا چاہیے اینڈ ساتھ ساتھ پروٹوکولز بنانے چاہیے جہاں گائنیکالوجی میں اسکریننگ ایڈنبرگ پوسٹ پارٹم اسکیل کے تھرو مینڈیٹری کروائی جائے, ساتھ ساتھ نرسنگ اسکولز اینڈ یونیورسٹیز میں بہتر ایجوکیشن فراہم کی جائے دیٹ از سیپریٹ فرام دی ریلیجیس ویوز اینڈ ویلیوز. تھینک یو.
Thank you, Ms. Zara. Thank you, Ms. Zara. Your research brings much needed attention to maternal mental health, and we appreciate your work in this area. Up next, we have Ms. Noor Lang from Fatma Jinnah Women University, Rawalpindi, who will be sharing her work on a culturally tailored approach to economic crisis, the economic crisis questionnaire for mental health assessment in Pakistan. Oh. Ms. Noor, since we're short on time, we would require you to do only 10 slides.
I'll manage within time. I'm unable to see my slides. Can I share myself, please?
Yeah, sure.
Is my screen visible?
Your screen isn't visible, but we have the slides displayed on screen over here. So you can continue.
Okay, great. Assalamualaikum, I'm Mena, a graduate of Patna University, and I'll be presenting my work titled as a culturally tailored approach to economic crisis, the economic crisis questionnaire for mental health assessment in Pakistan, done with two great supervisors, Dr. Mena and Dr. Sunil from Patna University. So if we if we look at the year of 2022, Pakistan and 2023, Pakistan has been under a multi-dimensional crisis. There was political turmoil, economic crisis, floods, inflation, currency devaluation, skyrocketing prices of food, influence, decrease, export, increase, import, and what's not. So Pakistan was in a very bad condition, and ultimately, the economic condition, the worst economic condition of the country impacted the mental health of the individuals. And according to the World Health Organization, over 30 million people in Pakistan suffer from mental illnesses, but they are refusing to talk and because they think that it's a taboo or something shameful. But if we want to study the impact of economic crisis on mental health, there is one basic question that do we have any instrument to measure the level of economic crisis and its impact on mental health in our socio-economic environment?
Nurulan, can you hear me?
Sorry?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Just share your objectives and results.
Okay. Since it's not the scale development study, so I will be going on to the process of development of the scale. So a questionnaire was developed named as the economic crisis questionnaire. The first step was to identify the purpose of the scale and identify the constructs being measured. So the constructs being measured was economic crisis, mental health, and growth opportunities. Then we have to define what is an economic crisis, which was defined as a situation when the country's economy is facing the downfall with an increase in food, health, education, and fuel prices, and decrease in living standards that ultimately affect the mental health of people, increase the job insecurity, increase in unemployment, and decrease growth and development opportunities. So we needed a scale to measure all of this. So data mapping was done and existing instruments were studied, and after an extensive research on all the standardized economic crisis and hardship measures available online, it was identified that almost all of them studied macro level approaches and were on a large scale and measured GDP, consumer confidence index, poverty rate, unemployment rate, stock market index, etc. Which was obviously not what our common man faces. We wanted to have something that would measure on a very individual level. So the economic crisis questionnaire was developed that would measure the crisis based on individual level, national level, and its impact on mental health and career-related growth opportunities. Then for the questionnaire, we wanted a response scale, and for that, the response scale was close-ended firstly, because so a close-ended response scale limits the possible answers and responses. The respondents don't have to write long answers, which increases the response rate and also the statistical analysis. Then a uniform scale was used because when a scale is just focusing on a single characteristic, we get better responses and people respond in a better way. A 5-point scale was used because it is proven to be the best it has a very good number of categories. Very few categories don't allow the respondents to share their opinion properly. Very too many categories confuse the respondents. And the labels of these points of the latest scale were kept to very short, understandable, and self-explanatory, and the respondents were, and the order was kept from negative to positive, meaning that the lower number 1 would be for the negative response, stability, and 5 the higher number would be for the positive response, always or hamesha and bahut had tak. Then reverse scoring was also used for new items to decrease the response bias, and also for the labels. The labels were in correspondence between the numerical and the verbal values. Additionally, the point selection method was categorical, and all the options, 5 options, were displayed in a horizontal layout, as it has been studied that this layout needs to be more easier for the monitor. Then the next step was item simulation. For the item simulation, literature review and mapping, extensive literature review and mapping was done, and brainstorming sessions were held with experts from the field of business, commerce, economics, and psychology, and people from general public, and an item pool was generated, out of which 56 final items were selected, and they were then divided into 4 subscales as overall economic crisis, individual economic crisis, growth opportunities crisis, and mental health crisis. Then the next step was the content validity for the item evaluation. It was within 3 steps. First, the content validity form was made, and which had a scale from 1 to 4, and items were rated as being non-relevant, somewhat relevant, quite relevant to highly relevant, and a panel of 12 raters was selected who rated that questionnaire which we were making. And then the content validity ratio was used using the given formula. All the
excuse me, can you brief with your presentation?
Sorry?
Be brief with your presentation. Thank you.
Yes, okay. And all the items were found to be essential and to be kept in the scale. Then the face validity was done, for which a form was made, and a panel of 12 raters was selected, and they were from different fields, and this was to measure the questionnaire in terms of appropriateness, analyticity, relatability, understandability, and situation in Pakistan. The data was from fields of commerce, business, sociology, gender studies, education, Urdu, and general public, and all the items were found to be relevant, and which were, and the face validity was found to be 92%, and some changes were recommended that we made. Then a trial study was conducted with 15 project organizations in Rawalpindi and Islamabad, working in private and public sectors, and the conduct alpha for the reliability analysis was found to be 0.933, which showed excellent internal consistency, meaning that the respondents understood the items in the same way they were developed by the researcher. And also in inter-item and item total correlations were carried out for the construct validity, which showed significant results, meaning that all items were valid and had good construct validity. Then to further study the psychometric properties of the scale, it was used to study the item association of economic crisis with psychological distress and societal variation among employed adults when their economic crisis was predicted. That was the predictive variable in psychological distress and societal ideation were the outcome variables. And according to the scale was used along with the dash 21, the dash 21 and deep societal variation scale. The conduct silver here was found to be 0.940, which is again very good, and there were significant item total correlations. When the question was again used in the same main phase of the same study with 496 employed adult men, typically the ages of 45 to 60, selected by the convenience sampling method, and there the conduct silver was again very significant, with 0.912, showing that the questionnaire was actually actually mirroring what it was intended to mirror, and by using this questionnaire, we also conducted the regression analysis, and it shows that the two sub-variables, individual economic crisis and mental health economic crisis, had a significant predictive effect on the depression and the psychological distress. And
Miss Noor, we only have 2 minutes left.
I'm almost done.
Okay, thank you.
Done. And growth was also found to be have a predictive effect on positive, significant predictive effect on stress. And lastly, the mental health economic crisis of the questionnaire was found to have significant predictive effect on suicidal ideation. So this is all. This is the economic crisis questionnaire is a theoretical and contextual contribution to the study, and we can use it in our studies for further studies in Pakistan as it is made for the Pakistani context. So this is all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Noor. I'm sure thank you for developing this unique tool, which will surely help assess the mental health impact of economic crisis in our society. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Mena Sheikh and Dr. Zainab Buttu to deliver their closing remarks. Can I share the mic?
First of all, I like to congratulate the social science faculty of the SZABIST University that they have organized this national conference, and they discuss, and all the papers which were presented, they were thoughtful and they related to the diverse field and to the diverse topics which are important. So it was a great contribution in the field of research. The gender differences are important, and there are drug-related articles were presented. There was an article which presented with the attitude of the nurses. So these were important for the policy making, and these were also important for the professionals, that how they can do work and where there is a need to do the work to help the people to attain their mental health properly. So it was a good effort. All the presenters, they made their contribution in a very comprehensive and organized way, and it was a great impact. I hope that the input of this conference will have a great implication in the field of the research and in the field of the psychology in terms of the psychotherapy given or the professional counseling is given. So this need has been arised very well. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Don't worry, I'm not going to take your time. I know we all are waiting for the lunch. we all are waiting for the lunch. First of all, I would like to thank SZABIST University and Dr. Khalda Rauf for inviting me for chairing a session. And all the papers were presented very well, highlighting diverse but important areas, variables. Overall, what I feel more related areas may be addressed in further researches, for further studies in future researchers. Especially, I would say statistics related to drug use is really alarming and need more attention. I think सबको मिलके काम करना पड़ेगा, otherwise जो society हो गई, especially related to drug use और ये सारी जो especially इसका impact आ रहा है, it's very important, and more attention. I think it needs more attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manasa and Dr. Zainab, for your insightful comments. Now, I would like to thank our remarkable session chairs, to all the brilliant presenters for sharing their research today, and to everyone for your active participation. We will now be taking a short break for lunch, a 45 minutes break. Everyone is requested to return to some. I would like to call Dr. Everyone, please be seated for only 5 minutes. I would like to call Dr. Ilyas to give the souvenirs to our guests. Everyone, please be seated for 5 more minutes. Thank you.
Sir,
Students, you can leave and please rejoin at 2 p.m. as the conference will continue at 2 p.m. sharp. All the presenters are requested to follow Sir Imran Island for lunch. Thank you and see you all.